or listening live, and yeah, maybe they'll guide the conversation a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think it's official right now. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe so. We are live. Welcome everybody, whoever might be
Welcome.
joining. We are live here on the Deep Share talking to Dustin. What's going on, bro? How you doing, man?
What's going on? What's up,
It's been a little
everybody?
while. And
Yeah, it's
Dustin and
been a
I
little
had
bit.
planned, yeah, we had planned to do a stream with a few people like 2 weeks ago, but shit went sideways and I just ended up not being able to do it. But we're here, we are. It's kind of like a Saga Talk live, I guess you could call it, but not necessarily just Saga Talk. But yeah, how's it going, man? What have you been looking into lately?
More box saga.
Oh, no way, really?
Tripped out. Yeah, more of the sound system and being able to like take all the things that are out there. Oh, from interdimensional space aliens to everything, religion, quotes, and just kind of being able to break down and understand it using the sound system
That's awesome, man.
laid out in the box saga. So let's get at it.
Hell yeah, man. And I know that before
Also,
we
so I also wanted to talk about masculinity in the ancient times,
okay,
femininity in the ancient times.
excellent.
You know,
Those are
yeah,
great
and
topics we can get into.
yeah,
And probably how they're inverted today. But also we were talking earlier off the show about that you had been listening on you I think you said like I accidentally listened to Joe
no,
Rogan's
I
podcast.
mistakenly
Mistakenly.
yeah, I love the box saga. I do love Joe Rogan's podcast, and I
Yeah.
really liked it a lot more before I was even into conspiracy theory stuff, or before COVID, long before that. I was actually listening it for more like nutrition. When he's
Hmm.
talking to athletes, and how he's a great conversationalist, but
Absolutely.
God, there's just some topics. It's like, oh, I wish that so and so was on Rogan, or can you imagine if your Bach was on Rogan or something like that?
Yeah, I have a different, slightly different opinion of Joe Rogan. But like from my perspective,
I'm
he would absolutely someone like Eeyore Bach or Jim Chesner would never ever be on there talking about Bach Saga. But
Yeah,
that's just my take because
I'm
because
coming.
remember what that comes with what comes with talking about the Bach Saga, the destruction of the ancient alien territory. And that is one of the main grifts that even Rogan and all of his buddies are starting, if not have already been for a while, slinging to the public in a controlled fashion. And I mean, I say that with confidence.
I am slowly, not slowly. I completely understand and in moving in the direction of how you think, of this concept of this gatekeeper, and
Mhm.
I think a lot of it is also like a lot of people don't even realize that they are the gatekeepers, right? They're
That's
just
fair too. I don't, yeah.
like you're doing this thing on the rise of the expert, right? This concept of an expert, and it's
Hmm.
like um everyone can feel like they're an expert in something, and not have the being humble enough to kind of say, maybe, maybe I don't understand everything, you know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I do.
But,
Um, there's merit there. Sorry, I'm a little
no,
distracted. I'm just sharing this
you're
link
good.
around to make sure everybody knows we're live. Um, yeah, anybody listening that may have a clue about going live, for some reason, when I use
How about while
Zoom,
you do that, pull up that picture of the alphabet wheel. I'll just
yeah,
talk about
word
it.
for sure. Yeah.
I'll,
Oh
I'll
man,
just
you
pass
just
the
sent me
time.
that second. You want me to send you that second one? Like
If you
pull
could
up
pull up
this one? Oh my
Bo, well,
God, yeah.
I love mine just because it's handwritten. I don't know, but the other one is like super cool to see
Yeah, either
also,
way.
but it's
I
digital.
mean, people can see both of them now. Can you see them? Yeah.
Yeah, they're super small though.
Right. But this is yours.
Yeah, you want to zoom in.
Oh,
Hey, that's
boom.
me. Boom! Look at that beautiful thing. That's
That
the
is beautiful.
so that was that's the Alfarnas Bete, the Allfather's rhyme, the ABCs, the alphabet, Alfarnas Bete. And it's made by making the flower of life, a bunch of rings and poles,
Poles, yeah.
holes, poles and holes. That.
Poles and holes.
And there's like even the circles in the center. I didn't draw those. They just appeared when I was done making this thing, and using the certain angles is how all of the alphabet is formed on the inside of this ring. And so according to Bach Saga, this is the sound system. So each letter represents a sound that our faces make. A, B, B, you know, and so on and so forth. And there are specific sounds, and they're pretty precise. But because each sound has a meaning, it literally fractals out. And it's hard to understand the concept of it fractaling out without seeing all of the lines and rings that were used to draw this thing in the first place. And so you can imagine this as, I don't know, fourth dimensional, whatever, all the way dimensional, you know, because it's representing sound, it's representing time, it's representing language, it's, you know, and you know, it keeps going on and on. But what I noticed a lot when I was drawing this thing is that a lot of these ideas intersect and connect, or are limited to by other ideas, and you cannot make one letter without making all of the letters. And it's kind of crazy. So like if I missed a line or something when I was making this, when I was drawing the next letter, it would reveal the line that I missed, because I couldn't draw the letter without it. And so each 10 degree, each dot, or there's a bunch of dots you see around the circle, those are all 10 degrees. So 10, 20, all the way down up to 360 degrees. And that is and off each 10 degree are 12 lines going across. But then it's actually more than that. And so the alphabet utilizes lines and degrees and angles that I didn't draw when I first made the whole thing, before I put the letters in there, when I already put on every 10 degrees 12 lines connecting to other parts of the ring. And anyway, it just keeps going and going. But it's pretty magnificent, and all of this information is encoded in the Bach Saga. And Eeyore Bach, who's telling the Bach Saga, didn't even know this. He knew kind of where they were, but not specifically. But using the actual Bach Saga, they were able to figure out the actual precise locations of each letter in the alphabet, which is insane, by the way.
Yeah, I'm
if you didn't
I'm
catch on already.
very often kind of talking about this point about the saga, that the most fascinating parts about the saga are sometimes the things that Eeyore never talked about and never even mentioned. Not that he may have been aware, he may not have, but things that have happened since, discoveries that have been made, things just continuously confirm the saga. It's just uncanny. And this,
Okay.
I like the way you said that when you were drawing the next line, it would reveal what you had missed. And that's, to me, that sounds exactly like saying in the root language, if something, you can tell when it's a lie because it's like, it's out of alignment with the saga or something like that, right?
Hey, can you pull up that picture you made me think of this.
Which picture?
That picture of Eeyore Bach with like his making like that okay.
Oh man, yeah, I can try to find it.
So you made me think of this, because how you said that, it was like, did he have the information that he wasn't giving?
I don't think so. So basically,
or he laid out the story and gave us the cipher, and then this picture of him is like, you will see.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need me,
perhaps.
And it's like, it's the eye, right? I don't know.
I'm definitely not like necessarily
Yeah, that one.
disagreeing with you, but
No,
I
but it
think
just made me think of that. It's like, he kind of
just a
said, you have
knowing.
everything you need to know. You need to just understand the sound system, and you can put all the pieces together yourself, and you will individually have the understanding. I'm teaching you not what to think, but how to think,
Yeah, the key.
right?
So I've been calling it a keystone since I started learning about it. It is a keystone, and it's also a living language, basically, and it's a living story because it literally keeps getting bigger and bigger as we go into it, as we learn more about it. And I think in that sense that yes, absolutely, he had that gnosis. He understood that the root language was mathematical. So therefore, as soon as once you understand it, you've got it, and then you can get better and better and better at it, as you are. Particularly, you're working at this a lot, so
I
you're
am.
you're becoming more and more aware of these things. What's up, Bryce is just joining us now, another friend from the Telegram.
Yes.
And
I haven't heard it from him in a while in the Telegram.
how's it going, buddy?
Hey guys,
Yeah,
what's up?
Bryce was recently on the Deep Share a few weeks back too, talking with me and Shane. That was a great episode.
Yeah, I watched that
Uh,
one.
So
Yeah.
we're just talking about Eorbach and the language and right now, but there's a couple different things I want to cover tonight. And in fact, like I definitely named this a strange way because I named it like nightmares and fairy tales,
Oh, we're getting
um,
there. We're
because
getting there.
I think we're gonna talk Saga, but we also want to talk about um, how should I put this? The ways in which the Saga gives the codes basically
Mhm.
to pick up on all the bullshit that's out there.
Yes.
And I think there's a way to talk about it, but there's a lot to it, because you have to go layer by layer sometimes, and people don't like when etymology points or takes away their monsters and stuff. And even I'm not even talking like Bach Saga root language, just looking at the history of etymology in general will fuck that up for people. And they'll have to hold on to their nightmares and fairy tales in order for them to still be real. Just the very idea that our mythological creatures and figures somehow are people take them seriously as if they have a specific connection to the original meaning of these words, and it's kind of backwards, where like the original meanings turn out to be much more human. And for people to like kind of hear that and know that and still want to hold on to the myths that came far later in history to describe what those words became, it's a denial. It's an outright denial or a misunderstanding. I don't know, or a grift.
Throwing out there, like
Like
what
Rogan.
what what it comes to what comes to your mind like when you think of like a word that just has a different meaning in Bach Saga that's more grounded.
Well, in Bach Saga particularly,
No, like out in the ether right now, and by
oh,
you know,
dragons. Dragons is one of my favorites, and
hmm
that goes all the way back to Durkasai, which means to see clearly, or the ones who see clearly. Which, of course, you start to follow that trend throughout everything related to dragons, everything related to shamans, everything related to serpent symbolism from culture to culture to culture to culture. We're talking about the same people. We're talking about these seers. Dragon's a good one. Giant is always an intriguing one. Not that I disbelieve that we were larger. I do think that that was the case. I think a lot of it's bullshit. There was a lot of mammoth bones put together to look like humans. And I know that people will say, oh, that's just what the Smithsonian says. It's like, yeah, but I can see grifter reporters doing that back in the 1800s too. And like, I don't see any problem with admitting that, amidst the fact that, yeah, we probably were really big. But there's no doubt that this word gigas, long before it had anything to do with planets in Greece, had to do, or maybe simultaneously, but for some reason, I'm finding a lot of references for this term relating to nobility and royalty rather than size or stature. So that's
yeah,
pretty interesting.
in Saga, giants were how we use the word giants colloquially in our society, which is like, oh, Rogan is a giant podcaster.
Yeah,
He's a
there you
giant
go.
in his field, and that's also kind of more similar to the meaning in Bog Saga, right? He's a
Mm.
giant of, God, and where God means good, means
Good.
good on the
Or
inside, you
gut.
know, and what? There's some more insidious things that we were talking about gatekeeping. There's some more insidious things too, which is like one that I hear Rogan do a lot. I'm going to pick on Rogan a lot here
Let's
because
do that.
I've been listening to him for quite a few years, and I really do enjoy his podcast. It's great. And then there's the most edgy stuff is going off the wrong edge, and that's where it kind of gets me. Separating. One of them is the fact that humans have always been at war and fighting. And that is one that has been extremely insidious because I don't think so. And the Bach Saga kind of inherently explains that that's wasn't the case. Where
Mhm.
the word war is a V, the W turns to a V. You have vor, and that just means springtime.
Yeah, springtime, the time of giving birth, the
Right.
time of new
So
children.
yeah, right,
Aries.
and yeah, and then if anyone is not familiar with the military system in the Bach Saga, it's explicitly the exact opposite of war, and in great detail. Whereas, you hear Rogan say stuff like, "Yo, we're always going to be fighting. We're always at war." But that's not the case, and I don't believe that was even the case during ice time either.
Right.
And I think it's quite relatively new, and war was a way of more propagating, um, you know, the father's side. So instead of war, you just make children with this man instead of this man, that kind of thing. So I don't know. Or you get mixed races. That was war. I don't know.
That's a no. It's a great example. I just wanted to welcome Alan as well. What's up, Alan? Good to have you here, man. But yeah, we're just talking Saga, um, hanging out. But no, I like this. I like
Hi
where we're
there.
going with it. What's up, Alan? Okay. But yeah, this is kind of where I wanted us to be at. We wanted to kind of decode some of these things. And yeah, you know a lot about the Saga's language, and I think it's important to showcase that. And I do think it's also important to showcase even where words come from long after the saga was kind of suppressed and everything, because it's still the same story. And like I've said before, I'm finding the weirdest, coincidences between what was going on in England and France and what was going on in Scandinavia, well, or not Scandinavia, but specifically Finland in 1048, this area, even before that, in the
Yep.
700s. Like it's all just playing into it's the same scenario. There's a
And
lot of pieces.
their history goes way back because I was just listening to this interview with Putin and Tucker Carlson.
Oh, you were
And
watching the show? You were watching the
I was just
new
listening. I was just
program?
listening to it just before, and Putin basically just goes into history for like the first like 30 minutes, and um, and he just mentions one of the pivotal points in Russia's uh, inception is a Scandinavian prince. So I just all of our histories are going back to back to hell, Stinky.
Right? Yeah, and I mean, I wonder how much a guy like Putin knows about these old stories, about the Ruotsi and all that.
Yeah, so apparently in Paradise Time, you have Udenma, which is at the top of the planet, and then the rest of the world was considered Rusland, technically. So
Hmm.
the entire planet was called Rusland before it was kind of separated. So you get people like the Etruscans, the Etruscans. right? And you get the oh my gosh, I'm blanking, but you get the you get the word ruse a lot, and Belarus. I mean, that's all in Russia. So Russia, Rusland is the land of the rose, you know, and
No,
yeah, there's
that's
a bunch
very
of
good.
others, but
Yeah. No, I like where we are. This is good. I don't have anything off the top of my head at this moment. I'm just kind of looking around at a couple things.
oh,
But
okay, yeah.
anybody, yeah, if you want to go jump in on anything.
Well, yeah. So this idea of the ruse, you can do that. You have also get necros, like which is a inverted word now, right? You think of necros as death, you know, necropathy or but you also have places like necropolis. So neck is neck. Each man has two necks, yeah, and then the red flower at the end. Only one of them has. So the neck rose is referring to something very specific anatomically.
Right. Aha, yes. Very
right?
good
And
point.
yeah, oh my God, there's so many. There's so many words with ruse, R-U-S, you know, which is standing for rose.
It's also my name.
Oh yeah, it's also your name.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it's
We all
supposedly
come from our father. You know?
it's supposedly French, and comes from Normandy and the Rus Vikings. That's what I've been told, or that's what I haven't looked into enough of it though. I'm curious now, but I don't want to give my fucking DNA to these conglomerations. I don't know where it's really going, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I'm a little distracted. I'm just trying to make sure this link is everywhere. But what should we talk about? What should we get into right now? Or should we keep going on this controlled opposition, like bad interpretation sort of thing?
Well, you know, Box Saga starts in the beginning to now, but a lot of the stuff that's happened, you know, in the last few thousand years, especially when dealing with like religions and a lot of different ancient texts, is we're actually just dealing with astrology, and
yeah,
to pick on
Rogan.
Yeah, continue to pick on Rogan. Hold on, let me try to. I'm going to try to find. I want to find the actual verse so it doesn't. So I don't trip on what I'm saying. You know.
You were mentioning like a biblical verse that he was referencing. I'm assuming with his recent interview with, I think her name is like Pasulka, her last name, something about aliens. It was a big interview.
Actually. No, it was actually with I think it was with a comedian, obviously. It was the most recent one, actually. What was it? I just saw it pop up because I guess his podcast is released on all platforms again.
Yeah, I put a post up on Twitter about that.
Aaron Rodgers. It was the Aaron Rodgers.
Oh man. Yeah, so I said something like "Let the gatekeeping begin" or something like that. Or yeah, I just the thing is like, yeah, he could be totally innocent and just dumb, but I don't think he is. There's too many like military intelligence people around him quite often. But the narratives he hands out, you know, if you and I talk Box Saga, right? So Box Saga takes away all the ancient aliens. It takes away all the gods. It takes away all the mythologies that have literally been control mechanisms in society. Whether you are New Age and psychedelic or you are Western religious, it does not matter. Both ideas, all of those ideas, Crowley and Thelema and Madame Blavatsky and all of it. I mean, fuck, Crowley drew the first gray alien and said he channeled a spirit or some shit. And what do we have now at the forefront of the alien conversation is, hey, maybe it's more about consciousness. It's leading right into all this thelemic bullshit. So no matter which way you turn, this ain't anything close to what Saga suggests, which is a purely human origin story with very human concepts and human traditions. You know, very much like astrotheology takes these mythological stories and turns it into a farmer's almanac. You know, it's very practical, pragmatic, very realistic.
And
And
also, what's interesting about the astrology is you can take these ancient texts to astrology, and then you can take astrology right back to Bach Saga.
Bingo. And that's what I would like to do on a number of episodes with you, because I know that you've focused a lot on the astrological part of it, and you've always been interested in that. And like I know that we have other friends out there that know quite a bit, like Dr. Narco Longo from Old World, Florida. I've talked briefly with him back and forth. He's a busy man these days, of course, but I would like to have him on one of these chats so we can kind of get his perspective on the astrological side of things in terms of Bach Saga, because I don't know if he's really talked about that, but I know he knows a shitload about astrology. I'm sure he's done a lot of work with the saga and astrology, or maybe not. I don't know. Shout out to Longo. Hope we can get him on soon. Do something like that.
Shout out to Alan right now too.
Yeah, man. We got him in the chat. What's up?
You cannot. You're muted, Alan. I don't know if you knew that.
I think he knows. I think he's just hanging.
Hey guys.
Hey man, no worries
if
you're just here. Yeah, good. Good to have you here, man.
No.
I'm glad to have more people from the chat.
Hey, yeah, it was like in 1993, and I was in the Big Island, and I met Jim, and he told me all the saga one night, and it was mind-blowing, and never forgot it. It was always like, well, that's the best conspiracy theory I ever heard, and that was even before like the internet and all this other stuff. And I was reading, I think, William Cooper at the time, and I was just like, oh shit, that just kind of blows that whole thing. And
what,
everything.
This behold a pale horse?
Yeah, I was reading that when right around the time I heard the saga for the first time.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. You're old school.
And I've been trying to succeed ever since. I mean, you know, it's something to keep in mind.
Literally.
And I always like saying, you know, pleasure is the measure. And one thought I had, one theory I want to share with you about all this.
Please.
And it's about the Ragnarok.
Okay.
Uh-oh, he froze up for a second. He was just about to talk about Ragnarok destructions.
Might be that Hawaii internet.
It could be. Alan, if
I don't know
we
where
lost
he's at,
you, please come back.
I think when you said Big Island.
Hey, you cut out for about 30 seconds. So you just said you just said
you wanted to share something
about Ragnarok. And we also have Michelle Merle coming in too, which is awesome.
Oh, that's good, because he might be able to help me.
Yeah, this is getting good, people.
Okay, so
this is what
here's
I wanted.
Here's my thought.
All right, go ahead, Alan.
Now, okay, so the sun or whatever, the infinite intelligence that is E or whatever, it decided to make the human race by putting that nanny goat and the ape there at the top of the planet. It was, you know, it's like he's sort of, there's still this sort of hidden hand even in the saga. And like there's like this with the astrology and everything else, like there's like a reason for it all. There's like a reason why the Ragnarok happened, and then and there was a reason why the second one happened and the third one. And like if all those things there's a reason for all those, then perhaps that there's like the solution or the coming back together of the nation, of the people, and somehow, and how to actually get that soup, everyone's E together in a chalice to unify that line. You know what I mean? Like there was a diaspora of the people, and then there needs to be a coming back to the people. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, well, what does that look like? You know, that's my whole thing. That's like, how do we do that?
But what are you describing? You're describing Udin, which is basically nature. Yeah. And the sun itself is the divine consciousness that we're thinking about, right? And there's natural law, right? And what's law? Like, this is the logos. So we're supposed to be living within this natural law. And so it is said, I think I heard this once, but it has something to do with us saying no, which caused the first Ragnarok. Something to do with us saying no. And it could be, and there's a lot of the things I was realizing when I was like making, say, that alphabet wheel, is that the Bach Saga also has like it's almost coded with some of its rhymes, like Udin is a ring, Udin is everything. It actually very, very much applies to the actual other letters it's connected to and across from when you're using like direction or the time of year and different things like that, and where the sun is located in the sky. And so doing something, there was a few natural laws that were understood in paradise. And one of them was that the mother always gives and never takes. So you're not supposed to take from her either, right? And so messing with those forces, messing with this mother nature, right? Messing with the mother nature, which is don't take people's shit and don't hurt anybody, right?
Right.
And so that's mother nature, right? And then men have their own nature as well, which is we have our titles and our duties to produce and be productive as well. We have roles to take the plan that was the mother's give and to execute that plan, right? And so this could be thought of as like a force of nature. And this would be force of nature would be more of the man side of things, right? Now you combine force of nature against mother nature, and who the hell knows what can happen? Maybe a Ragnarok. I don't know. I'm speculating a little bit and kind of just thinking out loud, but it has something to do with that. Saying the word no, right? And and the word no is knowledge and Udin, but reverse. So I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Well, I like to say no. No is the magic word. It's the lost word of power.
Welcome,
it's the
Michelle.
Most important word is no.
Michelle.
Good morning.
Testing.
Good morning. Good evening. How are you
From the more other or less side? Okay. I was just in Moscow with Tucker.
Oh, that show. Yeah.
Giving them some history.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a little bit different, how you call it, the calendar in Russia, no? So for them, what did he say? He came with one day. Anyway, 862, that was correct. And he said they went over, according to the Russian counting, 988, where we from Saga have 987. But it can be because that happened around the Christmas period, when their Christmas is like 2 weeks later or 10 days later or something. Oh, one second.
Yeah, see, I was listening to this Tucker interview he's referring to, and Putin goes straight into this history, and then Michelle is actually confirming those dates right now.
Yeah.
Of some of the stuff he is talking about.
No, he was really correct. Also, with his, what was it, 1564 or 1546 or something like this. When they have all this kind of hustle in Russia also, when they are changing from Ivan, what they call in the history book, Ivan the Terrible.
Oh yeah, Ivan the Terrible. Yeah,
Ivan the Terrible, and then he is finishing kind of the Ed of Rurik that start 862, which is this sideline from Sweden, who become like the dynasty in Russia. Yeah, and that started in Novgorod, but in the next generation they moved over to Kiev. So that's why Ukraine has the same colors in the flag as Sweden. And then 1596 it is. It started as Mikhail Romanov program. So we get this Romanov family up to 1762 when it became the Gottorps from Germany. But up to today, they still call them Romanov, but they are not Romanov because Peter the Great, he finished his dynasty with his son Alexis, who was educated by the Greek Orthodox Church and completely brainwashed. So he was totally out of it, and according to Peter the Great, not fit to be the next ruler in Russia. So he went to Spa in Belgium, where he met Adolf Frederick Gottorp, and he get him to send his son to become the creator of the next Tsar line that went on up until the Russian Revolution, yeah, which was the Gottorp from Germany. So it started with this Ruth guy. He was anyway educated in Udenmark, this guy who come from the Swedish sideline. And of Ynglingahead, they call it Ynglinga. You have Lingahead in Sweden, and then they made one new line called Ynglingahead in Russia. And they have been there from 862 up to 1596. So we are in the deep Middle Ages now. Anyway, Putin was referring to all these things, so I knew exactly what he was talking about because all the characters he mentioned, I have them in my head.
Yes.
So it was quite interesting to follow that he creates some kind of background. Anyway, they have that as, they have, of course, already earlier. But there he doesn't know so much about because then we talk about Eden time and the still existing Lemminkainen system before 862. So that Putin doesn't know so much about, although he know about Saga, but he can't
That's what
say
I
so.
was.
He
Yeah,
can't
I was
say
gonna
so
ask.
much.
I was gonna ask you about that. We've said it before you came on the stream. Like, I wonder how much, not just Putin, but people in that area of note
In
do
Russia,
know.
in
Yeah.
Russia, there is many people who know a lot, but because everybody they become discredited by history book and the general Western outlook on Russian people. Like we are so full of propaganda and so full of shit, so you can't believe it, and we can do nothing for that because it's only the history who has been creating that. But it creates all these misunderstandings that make everybody to go banana right now. Yeah, we are living in the time when this total. I found it very interesting that Putin was talking about. We have like a different view from our perspective. It's just like the brain has two halves, and we are living in the West with one half of the brain, and they are living in the East with the other half of the brain. And Putin says it's time we put them together so that we get like an overall picture in order to get rid of the misunderstandings that are ruling our life.
So what I mean, not that this stream is specifically about Putin, but I do want to ask,
No,
like, what do you guys think of that? Because, like, shit, this is
no. Tucker
you,
was like a school kid, he got a history lesson of
for
which he
sure.
wasn't
I can imagine.
he wasn't
Yeah.
aware of many things because he not been listening the last 25 years to maybe he has, but not really deeply. Putin has been
Well,
trying to tell to us in the West for 25 years what his problem is. Yeah, and he is not out to make any war, and he is not out to go to invade Poland or
oh my
Lithuania
God,
or
this is really
Estonia,
crazy.
and he is happy to finish the war tomorrow because they had already an agreement made 2 years ago in Istanbul, and Zelensky even signed it. But then came Boris Johnson, and they threw all the paper in the rubbish can. And then the how you call that the storyline becomes that Russia has been invading Ukraine, but he
Right.
said we are not there to invade them. We are there to protect our people who want to be part of Russia because they become discriminated in Ukraine by not being allowed to speak their own language and all kind of other. Yeah, you talk about all this Nazi there from this Azov battalion and all these kind of funny people, who come out of the after the Second World War period when actually the SS was stationed in Ukraine, the Nazi. Yeah, and he's want to get rid of them.
Yeah, and part of the propaganda is just really squashing all the anti-war with propaganda. And I pretty much got mostly educated on the whole conflict in about one day because there's a guy named Scott Horton. If anyone, if you haven't heard of him, he's worth following and getting his perspective when conflicts break out, because that dude is like a photographic memory encyclopedia of basically American foreign policy. And he goes off, and they've been in civil war in Ukraine for 9 years now, and but with the same thing. And I mean, I would see videos coming out very early in the conflict of Ukraine bombing the part of Ukraine that Putin came in to kind of protect or
stop it.
And there's reporters out there that were like filming, and then a building blows up behind them, and like, oh yeah, this is, and people are just walking around like nothing happened because they've been bombed for 8 years in a row, and they're like, this is regular life for us.
This is Tuesday.
Yeah. Anyway, it's all bullshit. They have so much bullshit there. So I've been following the whole thing for the last 40 years. So I know quite well what has been happening there, so I can't help it.
The weird thing for me is, like, I look at a person like Tucker Carlson, and I find him to be, whether intentionally or not, absolutely a controlled situation. He's not necessarily saying anything that's getting anyone in. He's not getting his head blown off, Tucker Carlson. You know what I mean?
Putin teased him about it. He was like, hey, I know the CIA was very interested in you. And then he paused for a long time, and he paused for a long time, and he's like, glad they didn't let you in, so
yeah.
Anyway, it was quite nice, he tried his best, Tucker Carlson, but he was blasted by like the response he gets from Putin, because everybody suspects Putin to be the idiot who is like half lunatic, gobbling around like Joe. Yeah.
Oh man, see, over here in the West, it's not like that. It's more like people are perceiving Putin, like the people that don't really want to pay attention, they're just probably perceiving everything he says as some slant on the truth.
No,
he's cunning, he's genius. Well, okay, for instance, has anyone seen the 13-hour-long documentary called Europa: The Last Battle?
I'm not sure, but
that one, that's a hard one to swallow. It's a hard one to watch. I know a couple other podcasters have streamed it on their channels and things like that. Shout out to Chris from Rantcast. He's done it before. But yeah, it's a whole different story about World War I and World War II, and very much like Putin live now on TV, or at least on Twitter, saying to Tucker Carlson, as you're saying, he doesn't want any war, he wants peace and all this stuff. It's like, well, that's exactly what this documentary claims about another enemy back in the day. And it's just like, is it propaganda? Is it not? I don't trust Tucker Carlson. He's talking about fucking demons being aliens and all this kind of shit, and ancient aliens and stuff. I don't trust aliens. Yeah, exactly. He's on that narrative with everyone else. He's in the intellectual dark web, in my opinion, just like Rogan and the rest of them.
Like many of them, I mean, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, he slowly gets out of it, because slowly he starts to be a bit more wise. He gets some education from, what's his name, this guy who does all around the world the investigation.
Graham Hancock?
Graham. Is it Hancock? Graham Hancock.
Yeah, Graham Hancock.
Yeah, so Graham Hancock make him a little bit wiser about all the stuff that he has been digging
Slowly.
up. Yeah,
Slowly,
slow.
slowly.
Right.
No, yeah, because it's like Saga, it's like a huge story. So if you want to get your finger in that story and you want to know what it's about, you have to listen to the whole story. Now, the whole story has never been put out by us, only in parts. Yeah. And
Right.
Iori has been doing it, but yeah, we have much material in root and in Finnish, which is ununderstandable for an English speaking audience. So I become mostly the translator of all that. Yeah, but I can go on for weeks on this subject to clear up all the misunderstandings that everybody holds around the world because everybody has their head full of information on all these kind of subjects, but it's all twisted. It's all
Mhm.
twisted information, which makes that when you delve into the subject, it becomes very difficult because either you listen to Eeyore's tapes and or my tapes or Jim's tapes or other things that have been made in the time, but to get that all together in one story, like you get an overview, like Appy tried to make in the book Introduction to Box Saga. It's the smallest piece of literature we could produce on the subject without that you have to read an encyclopedia. Yeah, and if you
Mhm.
make an encyclopedia, you already know from the beginning that nobody's going to read that. The Bible is like a strip book compared to Box Saga. It's
Mhm.
like yeah, it talks about a very small section of the history of the human being, and
Yeah.
we can extrapolate on that enormously. Yeah, but really enormously without that we can tell the whole history of the human being. Because the minute you start to talk about first Ragnarok, second Ragnarok, and third Ragnarok, there are people who can relate to the third Ragnarok because that's 1050. So for a Russian, that's like day before yesterday, like it is for
Yeah.
me, like it is for me also day before yesterday, because I've been spending 50 years almost in that area. So I know very well the history of Finland. I think I know it better than most Finnish. So
I
I
bet you
can't,
do.
yeah. And the problem is that you can't go out with that because you are not an authoritarian on the subject. You have no university degree. There is nobody who can peer review me. Or any of us who know this story, and we are quite a bunch at the moment.
Mhm.
We are like I would say there is like 25 people who can speak quite much with authority on Saga, just like me. And I have maybe more details because I happen to be the only one of the foreigner who speak all three languages. Yeah,
Mm.
so the root and the Van and the English without to speak them perfect. But I can get by. I understand the principle. I know the sounds. I know how to pronounce the names of the mythological characters and all this kind of thing. And this is interesting because then you start to really see. It's like the story what I made with Dustin the other day about Weinemönen and what it is when you start to divide this word and you see that Weinemönen, it's one mythological character. He doesn't exist. He is a story about this father who has this 12 son and minimum 7 daughter, who is this family who have a title, this 12 son and 7 daughter, that go out for the Finnish people in the form of Väinämöinen, Ilmarinen, Lemminkäinen, Sampo and Aino, which is Freya and Freya. They are all mythological characters only. So they are like title, which is the same like Joe Smith or John the Carpenter or Jackie Shoemaker. They are like profession
Mhm.
titles in Finnish language. That's why they could exist forever. Yeah, so Väinämöinen has been existing from Frey was the first Väinämöinen, like he was
Right.
the first Lemminkäinen when he get his 12th son to be 27 years old. Lemminkäinen becomes Väinämöinen in the Finnish mythology.
Mhm.
So you get like million of generations of Weinemönen and Lemminkainen and Ilmarinen. But because we only use one name and nobody explain what is the background to these mythological characters. So it's a bit the same with Zeus. Like you call Zeus in
That's
the
why
Greek.
they say
Yeah,
all the gods can live. That's why they say all the gods can live
yeah,
tens of
live
thousands or
forever.
millions of years. They
Yeah,
can live forever
they live forever.
because it's a
Yeah.
title.
It's only a
Exactly. Well, this is
title.
this
Yeah.
is what blows my mind because as I've been finding so many parallels between the Bach saga and old European history, um, this is yet another one where words like leprechaun and gnome and goblin and fairy and pixie,
Yeah.
dragon, all these words, sprite, fate, these words relate to titles and jobs, professions in some cases. It's
And
fascinating.
systems. Yeah. It's like you
Systems
talk
as well.
about,
Yes, like the fairy circles
yeah.
is something that people think is some magical, mystical thing, but it was actually the round table courts held in Caledonia by the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Pixies, the
Correct.
fucking
In
Pixie, the
Scotland,
royal
up in the
Pix.
north there. Yeah.
Yes, of
So
course. And it's
that is again local English mythology. But when
mm,
you see the comparisons of what that means in the Finnish mythology, where is the original one? Then it
right.
starts to become more realistic, and you get out of this kind of wishy-washy,
Woo
pinkish,
woo. Yeah.
woo-woo, blah
I,
blah, bullshit. It becomes all abstract, where it's
I, wa-
Yes.
spoken about real people.
I
It's
Right.
want,
talking
also
about
wanted to
real.
say, I also wanted to say it's more than a title. It's kind of like when we opened up, I was talking about duty. Like it's your job, it's your obligation almost to if you were the 12th son, you are the Lemminkainen. You don't have
Yes,
a choice.
it's like you are the
It
first
is your
son. You are.
duty to humanity.
Yeah,
It is the value you are
yeah,
destined and born to
yeah,
do. It is your purpose in life.
yeah. He's the head of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, in a way, no, it's exactly the same thing, and it makes for this kind of confusion that in mythology is for everybody today abstract because they can't see that it is a generational thing that has been existing from the beginning of the human being. Now,
Mhm.
if you start to think like that, it becomes also, you get also the space in your brain to go back before 6,000 years ago, when according to the good book, the world was created. Yeah, which is a joke. Everybody know it. But there is like 20% of the people in the States who are for sure that according to the Bible, the world started 6,523 years ago or some dates,
Right.
which is
The
totally,
relegioning did.
yeah,
The
that's
relegioning
This is what the Legion. Yes, exactly. This is what
well,
it
yeah,
did.
the
Well, the fact
religion.
that there was like, if you read the first stories of the Bible carefully, it's there's kingdoms all over the planet. There's
Of
people
course,
existing already when this Adam was created. It's a
of
stolen
course.
Sumerian story anyway, which again they call Sumer the cradle of civilization. And we know even just from mainstream anthropology, which nobody can claim is the cover up because nobody's running with it. They're running with the opposite. They're running with the aliens now.
Yeah,
Trust me, the military is literally supporting that narrative
of course.
slowly but surely. But what is it right in plain sight, which we don't want to pay attention to anymore, is real anthropology. When it says that, Sumer, the Ubaid people were there prior to the first Sumerians, and the Ubaid, this word Ubaid seems to equate to the word au pair, meaning overlords, but
Yeah,
not in some evil sense, just overseers, basically. And it's all related to the royal Scythians. And what
look
I
at
found, this is a little offshoot, and I've said it on the podcast before, so I apologize for people. I
no
may be
worries.
repeating myself, but for those who haven't heard this, what's really interesting is Star Wars, this idea of the Sith being this bad guy, right? And you have the Sith Lords, you have Palpatine, right? The ultimate emperor, the bad guy who's this Sith Lord, but he's a human, right? He's just a human. But in the prequels, you meet Darth, what the hell is his name? Darth Maul, who's a Sith, right? And he's got red paint or red skin, and he's got yellow eyes, and he's got the horns coming out of his head. And when I looked back at the origin of the story of the Sith in Star Wars, it is this very Viking looking tribe of people on this planet. They have Viking garb with horns and their skin is red. And I'm like, this is really interesting. And I keep going with it. And eventually they lose their fucking homeland and forever are wandering afterwards. And it's like all these parallels started matching up with like stories of this royal Scythian line that, you know, supposedly leads back to the Indo-Europeans and all the rest of the story that we get to Rajasthan and Hindustan and all that kind of stuff. It's all connected in some way or another.
And you also get a lot of words like that, like from scythe or scythe.
It comes from, it's from scoot or shoot, which means is this bow and arrow people. Yeah, it comes from this.
On horseback.
On horseback. So they are this, you have this, you get out of the Finnish forest and you come into the Russian forest, but in the southern part of the Russian forest, you have this enormous, like what you call them, the prairies, like the prairies in the States. This rolling land with enormous amount of thousands of kilometers they can blast on their horse through this rolling pampa that you cross if you are in the middle and south of Russia. Yeah, so it's a huge area. It is like enormous. I mean, it's not for nothing, the biggest country on the planet.
So it's also in the word schism, right? Schism, and then you have this word fascism, right? And then if you pronounce it correctly, how it's spelled, it would be fascism, which would be a schism from the father.
Oh, interesting.
Fascism.
So I don't want to. I don't want to neglect the chat here.
No, go for it, Alan.
Alan's put a couple of good things in here, but I just want to say that he mentioned Michael Sala. I've heard that name a bunch. I know he's a typical like alien type guy, and I guess you were saying just today he was shilling on the Nephilim as aliens, and that is a constant theme I keep seeing. And I would love for it to die, and I would love for people to actually do some research instead of just believing Christian fear porn and the New Age, like, and mixing that with New Age alien disclosure that seems to be government sponsored at this point. It's pretty ridiculous.
It's nice that Alan brought it up. This hi Alan. Anyway, I'm Michelle. We haven't met before, so it's nice to see your face on the screen also.
Hi Merle. Any friend of Jim is a friend of mine.
Jim is an old friend to you. That's nice. We have the same good friend.
Yeah, I had one good sit down with him.
Yeah, brilliant.
I had a question since we're talking about shills and disinformation. I'm kind of interested in hearing everyone's opinion on the phenomenon of channeling. And I'm a longtime student of the channeled teaching called the Michael teachings, which is a very theoretical, anyway, it's more cosmological and personality typing channeling. It's not so much, these spaceships and blah, blah, lights and, the Merkaba and stuff like that. It's not really like that. It's more like there's just 7 types of souls and 7 roles and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but I'm interested in hearing what you guys think in regards to the phenomenon in general with the saga, if it's all just fakers or what.
I would say some of it must be people that are part of the problem, but at the same time I think there's also there's a lot of good people that do spiritual work in that direction. Dustin, what do you want to say?
I was just wondering if there's other words besides channeling that are available to describe it, because by going into the word channeling, it goes back to water, or when we leave our mother's water kind of thing. So or canal, kind of, it's the same meaning, like a canal, a channel, a channel. I was wondering if there's other words, because if there's other words available, it exists. If there's no words available to describe it, other than using these kind of words, it might not exist.
Medium.
Or like in the way that we have to be able to verbalize, and so it's really in the words. So if we can find the right words describing the phenomenon, or because for me it's imagination. I'm like, you can't help but think something. It's like, where does that thought come from? And so it's like we're channeling constantly. I don't know the next words I'm going to say right now. I'm channeling myself.
That's a good point. Like, so
Yeah.
I've talked about that numerous times on my show back in the day. It was more consciousness focused, I guess you could say. But I would often say that like any sort of creative force is depending on your beliefs, but also depending on how you want to describe it. Anyone that's taken enough psychedelics knows that like the world is like made of metaphors, and so describing an experience in a certain way, like channeling a higher power through you to creating some form of art or delivering some sort of message. It's
We'll have a
almost
TV
like
channel.
it's almost like I'm okay with accepting someone phrasing it that way, even though I don't see it as actual beings transmitting information downward, because multiplicity, direction, desire, things like that shouldn't exist in higher beings anyway. So
No, I agree there.
that's a lot of the nonsense about higher this and higher self and
Yeah.
be beyond this reality. It's like, dude, this is the place where experience happens.
Here is where it's happening.
So what are you talking about these things from other?
Yeah, but
fuck all of that.
it's
Multiplicity
logical
is
that
bullshit.
it comes. It's like the UFO story. Yeah, before 1900, we have no UFO stories. All
No
UFO stories,
UFOs.
UFO is all after 1900, when we have these two brothers from Vricht who are flying over the Atlantic Ocean, and we are suddenly living our life in an aeroplane. No, yeah, then you go to the 1950s, and then we start not only to go in the aeroplane, we go in the outer space. So we, by ourselves, moved in the outer space. So we start to, how you say that? We start to imbibe all those stories on our newly created fantasy that became sort of reality. No?
We started looking up.
You start looking up, but before you just looked at the stars and the moon and the sun. That was it.
And we had a lot of help too, because right around
Yeah.
that time was the beginning of the Holly weird sci-fi generation
Yes.
of writers and movie
Of course.
producers.
Of course.
What was it? A Trip to the Moon was like the first silent film in Hollywood, or something. It's the first of something. A Trip to the
Yeah,
Moon. But
Jules
it's
Verne stories
Jules
coming
Verne, yeah.
in the end of the 19th century. All these
Absolutely.
kind of
War of the
things.
Worlds. These
Yeah.
these things were, and that seems, War of the Worlds seems more like an op than anything else. Like, let's broadcast this on live television or live radio and see who takes it seriously,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we're up in the clouds so much, and looking up so much, we forget how to even understand what's like right beneath our feet.
Yeah,
the
I always
soil.
say we're so busy trying to ascend, we're forgetting about grounding.
Right, grounding, right? And there's like it's even used colloquially as like resetting your energy, right? Every morning go out and make sure your bare feet touch dirt for a few minutes today so you can get grounded before you start your day wearing rubber shoes and things like that. They still use that word in the same way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everything started to become abstract. Yeah, in a way, we created our own abstractions, and our abstractions become part of belief systems. So it's like you talk about Nephilim. Yeah, it's the same story. It's just a misunderstood translation of one area on the planet that was living because of the climate in foggy circumstances. Yeah, depending on the water, you have that problem in England, you have it in Holland, and you have it in Scandinavia. And especially if you are going with your boat between the thousands of islands in the archipelago of Finland and Sweden, you to find your way there, you have a problem, man, because everywhere is sticking granite bubbles out of the water, and if you don't know where they are, the chance that you run with your ship aground is quite big. In the same time, it was an area that was not accessible for everybody. So it became already mystified of some far away place in the north. And it's this kind of, has this foggy atmosphere. And you find it from the German sagas, where it's called Nibelungen. And Nibel means the same like Niffel in Scandinavia, which means like fog. No? Yeah,
Right.
so it's
Nifl.
the home of the fog. Yeah, in a way, or the mist. It's this kind of
The
mist.
the naval mist.
Yeah, it's this mist. You can see it in the morning when the sun comes up, but you can have it all during the day when it's like really heavy. So if you then don't know where you are with your boat, man, you have no chance. You're gonna run aground.
So you're saying
Yeah.
it's their naval home, their Nephil home, their Nephil
No,
home?
no, I wouldn't.
Nifl.
Yeah.
Realm, yeah.
No,
Well, I mean, the traditional definition is like realm of primordial ice and cold,
mm,
and in Norse mythology, it's where the giants are, which
yeah.
is, to me, that's too much of a coincidence because I've gotten into the conversation where someone's like, well, Nephilim comes from a certain place, and it's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
Nephilim is the biblical offspring of the sons of God and daughters of man, which sounds like
There you go.
it sounds like an intermixing of two groups of people that
Yep.
is, and of course these are abominations. So it's saying these two groups aren't supposed to go together, or it's saying something. It's definitely not talking about magical giants, but I mean,
No, it's like very
these two
simple.
definitions are too close together to suggest that they're not related words. Nephilim and Niflheim. It's Niflheim and
Yeah,
Nephilim, and it's
it's
just too
very
close.
simple,
It's
and
yeah.
especially this thing that you have the gods and who make children with the human being. So now,
Right.
if you know what are the gods in the stories, yeah. So we have the heavenly gods, and we have the fertility gods, and we have the love gods. If we make simple translation to English, from root. So you have the grandfather and the grandmother, who are the heavenly gods, and you have the 12th son and his lady, who is coming out from the people who are living outside of Udenma because she is Baan. So she gets the title S Baan because she is the one that goes together with S, with the sun, with Sitaya Lemminkainen. So then you get that Lemminkainen is not only reproducing his own family, which we call the pirouette family, he is also making children with Disa, who are the children of Lemminkainen by Disas. And out of these Disas, you get 8 possibilities. You get, when you are good, we make the shortcut, if you are good to make children, you become one Rabbi. If you are not good to make children, you get a job in the information system, so you become like a nar. And then you have the Disa coming out of that combination of Disa and Lemminkainen, who become stammothers for the future. And if she is not having that job, she is in the information system, just like the Rabbi and the Nar. We get Disa and Sienar, Sienare, we call them in root. And then we have Tur and Tur and Tura and Tura, of which we have 80 in total before, because there had always to be 10 of each inside Udenma. So because you have 4 different, 2 masculine and 2 feminine, Tur and Tur, Tura and Tura are the feminine titles. So when you have always 10 inside Udenma, there can be only 10 outside of Udenma. So you have all the time 40 of them running around in the world, and you have 40 at home, and they exchange position because all of them need holidays after coming home, from their trips. So in that way, you get all this. But now this Rabbi, he becomes the Allfather in the ringland outside of Udenma. So he is the son of the god who is making children with the Jarl woman. Yeah, from where come the Karl and from where come the trail. So that's the people. Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
really true. It's the children, it's the gods who are making children with man
with the
and
man,
woman,
with the women, yeah,
with the women. Yeah,
the human
yeah.
women, yeah.
But it's just
It's the
in,
caste system is what it's
yeah,
describing.
it is exactly the caste system, but now you are taking that side in the titles of the heavenly gods, the fertility gods, and the love gods. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the love god is symbolized through Seppo and Maya, the king and the queen. The heavenly gods, the grandfather, grandmother, and the fertility god is Lemminkainen because he's the only guy who's making children up there. Nobody else. Yeah, so everybody is in one system, child, grandchild, great grandchild, or great great grandchild from Lemminkainen. So in that system, he was the allfather to all the people of the planet. So he must be the highest god, or anyway, his father is. Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's in one system where this God means only God in our translation of the word good, because in root it's good, because that was his opdracht, that was his reason to be, was to create good people. So
Hmm.
we were all good people, physically and mentally, because the procreation system was perfect and the information system was perfect. And Frey was the first pair. So that means that we have been perfect from the beginning. Now, this is
Perfect.
very hard to get that we are believing through our education in all kind of evolutionary theory, which is also correct. We have, of course, evolution, but I never seen an elephant going to university, and there is not in that way evolution. Evolution by the human being can only happen in the brain in that way. Yeah, if you can filter out all the, let's say, bullshit story that they have become in the end, which create all this mass confusion about all these different symbolic stories, like the dragoon comes from uh, dragunder, yeah, and dragunder is one guy on one horse. Yeah, it is a title in the army, a dragoner, or I don't know how you call it, if you have that
Yeah,
in English.
dragoon.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
a dragooner, it's somebody on the horse. Yeah, so
Hmm.
you have this, and in the same time, the dragon is another word for the Midgårdsormen and the Laxormen, which is the offering system that they have. So this Ukko and Akka, these two highest gods, they are fishing for Midgårdsormen. Yeah, you have it also in the symbolics. If you see them on the stone with the carvings inside, that they sit in one boat and both of them are fishing there. No? He has got the angle hanging out, the rod to fish with, and she is getting the fish on the hook. So in that way, this Midgårdsormen, it's that snake that goes around the world that bites itself in the tail. Yeah, so it's also the Ouroboros. But
Hmm.
Yes.
you in China, it is the dragon because it's a whole bunch of people who is under
Oh,
this cover of the dragon who are
yes.
symbolizing all these people offering from one to the next one to the third one, so that in the end it ends up in the brain of Ukko or in the brain of Akka on the female side. So the masculine dragon is Midgårdsormen, the middle garden snake, and the female dragon is the Laxormen. So Laxormen, so Midgårdsormen in the aesthetics, if you make them in metal form, he is crowned by Laxormen, this Midgårdsormen. Now, so they are part of the dragon. Now you have two kinds of dragon. Yeah, you have one dragon that spits fire, so that must be the masculine offering system. And you have one who has wings. Now that is the female one, because they can spread their wings for the offering system of the ladies. So we have these two kinds of
Or
tra.
angel wings.
Yeah, the angel wings, correct. Yeah, you can make them in the snow, yeah, with your arms and your legs. Yeah, but it's symbolic for this lady who is spreading her leg in order that the other lady can drink from her. Yeah. So you have the masculine dragon and you have the female dragon. And now this dragon, it is again consisting of dra, gu, and en in the sound system. Now we all know what is dra. Dra is when you draw or when you pull. Yeah, no, it's by the is what you have between your leg. Yeah, so you dra I hand. It's the root name for wanking. Yeah, so we was all wankers. No? We was all wankers. The wankers. Yeah. So we are having there this thing that tra and gu means that what is coming out from when you are wanking. Then the gu is coming
Goo.
out. Gu. The gu
Goo.
and the gu. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
this part what is just
Goop.
before the D of good. Yeah, so you have good and you have the gu. When you D the gu, good, yeah, it is D Udens grund. You drink Udens ground. Yeah, the base of Uden is this whole thing that before was normal when we was drinking from ourselves because we didn't waste a drop of sperm and we didn't waste a drop of magla. Of course, some can be spilled because in the end it's only one sperm out of these hundreds of millions what is going inside to reach the egg of the lady. Yeah,
Right.
so of course, yeah, but okay. Yeah. Yeah, so it is this draguen. It says already by itself what it is. It is a question of taking out sperm or magla. Now, so you have that also as one character who is riding horse, going around the planet, and is a part of an offering system and a creation system. Yeah. So you can demystify all these things, all these different words what we have to being a real thing pertaining to the daily rhythm of life of the human being in the paradise time all over the planet and in Finland up to 1050. Yeah, so it's only it's only 1,000 years ago that it was existing this kind of thing.
It's crazy.
That's right. Even in English, when we spell the word dragon, we leave out that second O. But but we do have a word which is the dragoon. I remember it from video games actually. Playing video games, they had a character, a dragoon, and but that's interesting.
Yeah, of
know?
course,
Yeah,
you have them
and
everywhere.
it's interesting too that there's a lot of different references to like sacred sexual rites or the gnosis gained from certain Kama Sutra methods and that kind of all
Yeah,
that kind of
all this stuff.
information. A lot about connecting this to knowledge, to higher knowledge and higher wisdom, and that's got to be the connection I can make to what I've learned about where this word came from, at least from the old English and stuff like that. Because before you came on, Michelle, I was doing that. I was talking about where like it came from Edricon in Greek, and this word Dirkestai, which means just to see clearly. And it's like related to all the shamans and the serpent symbolism that's related to Druids and the Naga people of Egypt, or the Brotherhood of the Serpent in Sumer. And of course, this is all after the flood, but this isn't after the third Ragnarok. This is way before that too. All these dragon cults existing, relating to seers and higher, shaman types, and it being kind of that mentality of the Catholic Church destroying all of them from place to place to place. So I wonder how these two very different interpretations is the one I'm talking about just a total fiction, or is that part of the real story too? I was telling Dustin earlier that like there's so many parallels between what like the whole story of the Grail and the Arthurian legends are saying about that time period in England versus what is going on in the Bach Saga. It's like right next door, around in the same time period. This Carolingian dynasty, the Merovingians and the usurping of the throne by the Catholic Church and all this stuff. It's all happening around the same time as the saga. It's just, I don't know. It's sorry, I just threw out a lot of stuff.
It's magic to see. You see that in England comes a change after the year 600 when the church enters. So already around the year 0, Julius Caesar was visiting England. Yeah, shortly after or shortly before. I'm not really sure at the moment. I think just after 0. So already there was like contact between this Mediterranean people and these English people, who was 100% part of this Nordic enclave of paganism and heathendom. So they had also their kings and their stories because they become like that because to populate these areas after ice time, of course they have been keeping contact with the place where they came from because they knew where they came from. But now you start to get in mixed stories where the remnants were left by Hamlet, kind of. Hamlet stories by, what's his name, this guy, Shakespeare. No, yeah, he was shaking his spear, and he found that a pleasant title.
You'd say he's wanking his spear, huh?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Shakespeare. I mean, the spear is like the lance of the lance of Lemmingainen. Yeah, that's a lance. A lance is the same as a spear. Yeah. So the spear is completely symbolic. Now, this guy, he's writing stories about heathendom. He's writing about Midsummer Night's Dream and all this kind of children making festival that you had in Scandinavia and also in England. So now you couldn't talk about it anymore because in the meantime we have been getting under the information system of the church. So you have to kind of hide that a little bit because otherwise you are thrown on the fire on Saturday, 12 o'clock. Yeah, they burn you when you talk about this thing. The next nice thing that happened for the Shakespeare type of character is that in 1534, the king in England takes over the information system of church by himself. So we get the Church of England by Henry VIII, 1534. Yeah, he is copying Gustav Vasa from Sweden, Finland, who did that 1527. So they was like the first Protestant type of people who didn't anymore accept 100% this monopoly that the Pope had on the writing system. Yeah, or all the people belonging to the church, they were the only ones who were allowed to write. But now this Protestantism of these Nordic people made that they could start to write down stories, which before they had no possibility to write, because again, you become thrown on the fire 12 o'clock on Saturday. Yeah, it was standard ritual in those times. So everybody who tried that, he became killed. But now this, let's say, Renaissance type of thing make that they could, via the books, write down the stories that they were having in their theater groups that were everywhere living, like this circus people from Eden time, yeah, standing in the rusty and making their theater in order to inform the people. No, they did it also in this kind of theater places. Theater comes actually out of it, yeah, out of this rusty information system. So now he could write them down and you put your name under it and it becomes the story of Shakespeare, like he invented them. But he didn't invent them. They have been played for thousands of years. He was just writing, the first one to have the right to write them down. Yeah, and then it's a question if he was it or Sir Francis Bacon or, it's like, because it's Shakespeare. Anyway, we stick to Shakespeare because They are anyway the stories of Shakespeare. But they are talking not about England. They're talking about the Danish king, of whom
Right.
we were all descendants in the children-making system of the kings from Denmark from after the ice time. All people in Middle Europe, in a way, come out of this Dun king line
Don's
from, yeah,
mark. Yeah.
which is called Oldenburg today, this king line, yeah,
Oh, okay.
sitting in Copenhagen.
No
Yeah,
shit.
and the last lady of the Dun line, the Dun sperm line, ends with Queen Margaretha, who just abdicated 2 weeks ago.
And wasn't there a movie about her that came out recently?
He
I
also,
swear there was.
yeah, there is something about her. Yeah, yeah,
Yoke was telling me about that
yeah,
like probably
yeah,
4 or 5 months ago that I
yeah,
need
yeah,
to watch it.
yeah. I haven't seen it either. So, but
That's
anyway,
very,
she
very
she is
interesting.
the last one from this Dun line that starts 9,040 years ago.
Hmm.
Yeah. So she is the oldest existing from this king line that come out of these two brothers that jumped outside of this Bok family who moved back to Finland 1,000 years after Iceland. Yeah.
So there was a in 19 okay, so Hamlet at Elsinore was a broadcast in Canada in 1964, April 15th, in the United Kingdom, exactly 1 week before Shakespeare's 400th birthday. And it was um, shot entirely at Helsingor.
Helsingør, that's in Denmark.
Yes, but it was Hamlet at Elsinore. So they
Yeah,
removed the H and the G, and
yeah.
you get go from Helsingor, which is Helsinki,
No, no,
to
no, no,
or
no, no, no. It's Helsingør is on the northwest. It's just north from Copenhagen. It is the place where you have the shortest distance to go over the Sond, it's called. It's the water, this North Sea water between Denmark and Sweden. And Helsingør is on the Danish side, and Helsingborg is on the Swedish side.
yeah. So get this. So this Hamlet at Elsinore was filmed in Helsingor, and it was produced by BBC in association with the Danish radio,
Yeah,
and was
correct.
shown on the US
Yeah,
on NET. Yeah.
yeah. But it's the Danish story. It is part of this route that belonged to the offering system coming from the Atlantic side of Southern Europe.
Yes, it was
Yeah,
filmed in the castle in Helsingor.
yeah. There is the castle.
Yeah.
I've been there, so it's like a
Yeah.
really comical place. But you have, if you go a little bit southwest from Denmark, you have this island called Helgoland. Helgoland.
Helgoland.
Helgoland.
Yes.
Yeah, and there they find many things also. And from there you can go further south and you come to Holland, and there's one town just 60 kilometers north of where I sit now, which is called Den Helder. Den Helder. Yeah. Yeah, so you can feel this hell there. Then we have Helmond, the,
Wow.
the moon of hell, which is a place 200 kilometers away from here, if you go inland from Holland into Central Europe. So you can find from the name, it's like if you come from Portugal, you come from Portugalia. That means the entrance to Gallia, the port to Gallia, Portugal.
Or
Yeah,
Gaelic.
to Gale.
yeah,
Into the
correct.
Gales.
Yeah, to Gallia, it's Gaelic, it's Celtic, Celtic, Gothic. Yeah, it comes from Gothic originally. All these
Oh
other
yes.
name what we get in Scotland and England, and then
Gothic.
going down to Southwest Europe, to Portugal, where you enter the Portugalia, because these Gothic people, they come down from Gotland in the form of Gothic tribes to very quickly occupy all this now new empty land from ice after the ice time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they,
Yep.
yeah, you get it. Yeah.
Well, it's
Mo-
it's it's yeah, it continues to connect to this stuff I've read in Nicholas DeVere and Lawrence Gardner's work talking about Dracula the Dracul, Vlad Dracul the Third, like,
Yeah.
and how all the stories are kind of all fairy tales.
That is
And
this Roman stories, this Roma, from Romania.
yes,
Yeah.
I
and
have a random conspiracy theory I want to ask both of you. Andy, you probably have heard this name before, John Plantagenet. You heard that
no,
name?
I have
Planta-
not the top of my head.
King. He was the king of England,
Yeah.
1199 to 1216, and there was a 12-year-old girl in the United States.
Plantagenet, yeah,
Yes,
or
Plantagenet.
Plantagenet. Yeah, I
Yes.
know what you mean. Yeah.
Plantagenet.
And
There
so
it
there
is.
was this girl in the United States. She was 12 years old, and she went on this research project and found that 42 of the 43 U.S. presidents at the time were all related and traced back to this guy.
Yep. And this is also where De Vere's work goes into his own family. And Lawrence Gardner was working for all these royal families, connecting their family trees and stuff like that. And it goes all the way back. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, man. Keep going.
Oh, I was just going to say, just to finish the little synapse on with him, is he was also depicted as the villain in the Robin Hood tales. And he's responsible for the collapse of the Angevin Empire, which resulted in the power growth of the French Capitan dynasty during the 13th century. And he's most famous for signing the Magna Carta in 1250.
I just wanted to say that. Yeah, that's correct. That's 1216, I think, or 1213, around that time.
It's unbelievable what happens to these points in history when you have Saga in your head.
No, it's so easy because it's become so easy to connect. Okay, it takes time, because there's many stories. But
Sure.
anyway, you get like an oversight, so it becomes more easy to follow all these things. It's like, if you know that the church is coming up. So if you think that the Roman Empire is collapsing in the year 400, and the church take over the information system. So it's not until 400 after Christ that the church really took over the information system. It was existing in some form, but it didn't mean so much because you had everywhere had their information system. In France, in England, in Holland, in Germany, in Hungary, in Romania, everywhere. But now the Roman had been taking that over. So in that way, they are uniting a big part of Europe. These kings, or whatever you call them, they are not kings, because to be king, you must come from this Nordic line. You can't just take, everywhere they take this king thing, this king title, because it already occurs in the tropics under Einstein, when we get these 10 tropical king systems around the planet with 10 different mythology and 10 different languages. Now, these kings, they don't call themselves king in that part of the world. They are Shah or Tsar or Emperor, or they have all kinds of titles, but they don't call themselves really king. It is again our translation that make them to be king. So you start to get thousands of kings, because everybody gets his kingdom, which is also again a translation of, let's say, ringland, of an area, of a smaller area. When the big areas collapse, when the emperor system collapse, or when the Caesar system from Rome is collapsing, you get king in France, a king in Spain, king in Italy, king in Greece, everywhere.
So we have king meaning kin, right? There's a connection to kin, right?
Also, because it's inside,
Yeah.
But it is coming from kung, from the root word kung.
It sounds like crown almost.
Kung.
Whoa.
Another one speaking.
Use a mute on that, Alan.
That's nice, with a little bit doggy sound.
That's all right. No worries.
Look at the bird.
It's like Ananto with his gecko. when he's making his tapes in Thailand.
Was that me?
Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't
That's all
matter.
good, man. It's all
It's
good.
all right. No,
Hey,
but it's
I had a kind of question or maybe a comment about the future, and you know, it would be a really amazing thing is to have some women who are familiar with the Bach Saga who could dream a story of creating an ascension story or a new offering system or a way to reunite the souls of man in a
wow.
way that is attractive and interesting. And it's not hashing over the history, but more like how are we going to move forward? How are we are going to sort of reestablish an information system that works? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's a good question. And
it's
we
a
do
very good
have a
question.
few.
It's a very good question. If you think that we had before one information system that started in one place and went all over the world, why should we have today or in the future? Yeah, why should we have 2011 information systems when one would be enough if everybody could understand that information system? So an information system is always based on language. And if you now look our present situation on the planet, we had these two languages from before, Root and Waan, who are from that are from before ice time. And now we get after ice time in some magical form, we anyway get English that become worldwide spoken language. So that seems to be the best language to communicate in for the moment. If we then dream about a future where people start to be interested in the sound system and see that all language is basically coming out of a 29 different sound system, which is most clearly expressed in the Finnish language. Now, if you think that before Einstein, we everybody speak Finnish all over the globe, yeah, because also the Uudenmaan people speak Finnish because they developed that language based on the root sounds. Yeah, so the Finnish language is probably the best language to speak for one functioning information system for the whole world. But now you start to talk about generations of people, depending on how interested they get into it. Now, for that, we need a little bit of help that is outside of us. So, for me to, if you start to dream further on, there is, Saga doesn't say so much about the future. But anyway, I know that you should base the future on your history. Because if you don't base it on your history, you're going to be experimental and then you are living the life like we are living just now. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a full experiment. Yeah,
My
we are,
my theory is that there was a reason why the Ragnaroks happened, and then there was a reason why
of
it went
course,
from
of
one
course.
race to what 13 races,
Okay,
and so like and to me it's about okay for the diversity in my opinion the all that is wants to try and expand the creation to create the art, and so you
correct.
create these different articles, right? So then it, so then from if we're then projecting forward, if we're then maybe reuniting, then that's a taking away, or it's a refining from that diversity back to a one
No, I don't know. No,
information,
no.
right?
That's like we would shoot all birds that are not part of that one bird from where all bird originate. Yeah, so you take away the color. So the if you think that paradise time we were all brown, so we
Right.
was all a little bit more maybe looking like me in the color wise, or like in India or like in the Mediterranean, or there was basically all brown people, but different shades of brown. So one
Mhm.
shade of brown we call yellow, and another we call red, and another we call blue, and blue became black. So, but anyway, before they was called blue people. is what we call black people today. So if you see that the nature has been making us to be 11 different type of people, and we can figure them all out, because every, let's say, original race from under ice time, they've got the same helmet, they have the same dickhead. So from the dickhead, you can see the difference to which group of people you belong. Now,
I
for
think I
me,
need to see illustrations because I hear
uh,
that and I have no
yeah,
idea what you're talking about.
There's plenty of information online. We can look it up. No
there
problem.
is,
Uh,
but now this is a difficult thing, because if you think that Finland and Russia is the only place, and maybe Sweden, Norway, is the only places where you can be naked in company in the sauna. So
Uh,
if you go in those countries, you can actually see all these different dick that are inhabiting this planet. But now it's a question, you have to take in one Chinese there, and you take in one African there, and you take in one Hindu there, and you take in Mediterranean from there, and American Indian, North, South. And no, yeah, I think that before we had an extra continent, that one that we call today Antarctica, but that was located in a different position on the planet before ice time. So for sure there have been living people there, and we know from investigation that it was tropical more than 50 million years ago.
Yeah,
So we are
and does that
already.
mean that Schwabenland, that whole there is a hole down there, or maybe there's a whole other temple on the southern
No, no,
pole?
no, no, no,
because
no.
it
There is
wasn't
no.
that wasn't an actual pole location in
yeah.
It
paradise.
no
Antarctica would
the
have been somewhere else. Like if
yeah.
Oh, I got you.
before the tilts
I got you.
happened,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I got you.
Be,
Yeah, yeah.
before the tilt, Antarctica was a bit more north. So or
Yeah.
But
no,
it
let me
is
see.
interesting. It is interesting concerning the original tilt that Antarctica is the South Pole now, right in the center of it. That
No,
is kind of interesting.
if you what is interesting is that before the North Pole was on land and the South Pole was in the water, if you
Mm,
make
Yeah.
some kind of a trigonometric configuration of Antarctica, New Zealand, and Tahiti, and you go in the middle of these three places, there you find the South Pole. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So if you have the map of the world more or less in your head, you have New Zealand, and then you go east from there, you go to Tahiti. And when you go south from that middle part of that trip to Tahiti, and you go in the direction of Antarctica, then you come, uh, if you move everything 30 degrees, you come to in the South Pacific to the South Pole. So before ice time, the North Pole on land and the South Pole in water. And now with the flipping over of the axis, it becomes opposite. The
yeah.
North Pole become in the water and the South Pole become on land.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So
impressive.
you have to switch everything. You can take, if you take a ball from the earth and you stick a pin in Helsinki and you hang it up on a thread, hanging it from the ceiling, and you make a
Hmm.
new equator, and you get the form of the planet as it was looking before ice time. Yeah, more or less.
I also one of
Okay.
the nice root words that gave me an aha moment that I thought was really beautiful is the word art. The word art in root is species. Think
Interesting.
What,
about
what
that,
is art?
right?
Art.
But
Yeah,
it's also like each different race is its own art,
yeah. It's his own
right?
art.
And in each species is its own art, and there's many species of goats and many species of etc., right? And I just think that's kind of cool. That's like true art, that's
Yeah, no,
nature's
of
art,
course. The art
species.
before the the art before uh, is based on the human body.
Yeah, check this out, guys. This is from a very, very popular show back in the day called Lost. And look at what they say here. Oh wait, you guys probably can't hear that, can you? Hang on a second.
No. But I saw that film. It's these two Finnish guys who were talking about something.
This is from the show Lost. Can you hear it now?
Father Christmas
Yeah.
Yes.
lives just down the street from here. Father Christmas lives in Helsinki. Indeed he does. And in case you haven't noticed, baby brother, Finland is the bloody North Pole.
Like, I watched.
Have you ever seen that show, Andy?
I was obsessed with it. I watched.
Yeah?
Oh, back in the day, I think I caught on to Lost after its third season, so I was hooked. And back then, shows were like fucking 30 episodes a season. You know, just like, oh my god. You know.
Yeah, and I was really disappointed with the ending, but the whole concept, looking back now,
Ooh.
is interesting, right? Like,
yeah.
this
One world order.
the idea of this, like, oh, that too, but I mean, like the
Oh, yeah.
energy, you know, this energy of an island that they're like tapping into this I don't know, like
I'd have to go back and watch it. It's been so many
hidden
years.
field
You
or
know?
something. Yeah, it was just like weird things would happen interdimensionally and things like that.
You know what else? We're talking about like controlled opposition. We're talking about like bad information, things like that, from mythology to even, you know, more recent. Another piece, now that we're talking about Antarctica, I just want to note, and I know some of my listeners and viewers may be like thinking I'm a broken record here, but it's important to say it. The story of Admiral Byrd's secret diary. Have you guys heard about this diary where and of course it's controversial and most people don't think it's real and some people do think it's real. But what's funny is that everybody sources it to Antarctica and talks about this underground race of like Nordic aliens that Admiral Byrd was introduced to and stuff like that. And the funny part is it has nothing to do with Antarctica. The whole diary is an Arctic story.
Yeah.
And it's just it's like, what? As soon as I learned about Box Saga, I was like, oh, that's interesting. That story about Admiral Byrd. Everybody thinks it's about Antarctica because everybody thinks all the mysteries in there are in Antarctica. Whether you think it's a fucking ice wall around the world or you think it's like the place where all the aliens are kept, it's all about Antarctica. Meanwhile, this probably bullshit Admiral Byrd diary is talking about the North
birds
Pole.
use the magnetic poles to navigate, right?
Yeah, well, and the thing is Admiral Byrd in real life did do trips to South America or Antarctica and the Arctic. You know, he went to the North Pole, but he was also involved in Operation Paperclip, Operation High Jump, where they were clearly fighting Nazis at the South in Antarctica. You know, but it's just funny that the diary is about Nordic, like super huge Nordic alien types found living underground in the Arctic at the North Pole. And that's what the diary is about. And of course it's bullshit, but I just find it very funny that it's been put out there into our popular culture. It makes a profit for someone or multiple someones, you know, and it's a story that leads to aliens and everybody in this community loves to talk about it. Meanwhile, it's actually about the North Pole. And
yeah, you might be mispronouncing that word.
What? Which word?
Alien.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
You might be mispronouncing it. It might have an R somewhere in there.
Yeah. Somewhere the L and the R get confused, especially where this word comes from, you know.
I have been alien also. When I was spending one period of my life, I was hanging out in Japan. And when you enter the country, you have to join the line of the aliens, you know, when you give your passport. Yeah, there's written alien. And for them, I'm an alien, you know. So
I think it's so funny.
Yeah,
people
I was
overlook
kind
that.
of. Yeah, it's alien means strange. Yeah.
Yes, it means other, you know.
Other. Now that you can bring it as far as you want, you know. So that means, we are alien to the African people, and the African people are alien to the South American people or to the Polynesian people, or more or less.
And I always like the idea for there's just with Box Saga as a reference, you know, a place that everyone considered to be completely uninhabited, like beyond the ice, like for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, anybody that got near that area was like, this is just all ice and death, and no one lives up here. So no one go up here. And they would
Yeah.
just live out their ways. And then eventually people, pale people, showed up from there. Oh my God, like literally gods or aliens, alien,
Yes.
other, like, oh my God. Like, so it's like the stories are not like, there's no
They're not
need to,
all.
it's like, no wonder we have the mythologies that we do. And I don't know, it adds up for me.
Yeah, they are
Or
not
when
all
you
these
get a
stories.
passport, when you get a passport, you're going through a port. Yeah, you're passing through one's port where you put a ship. And
Right. It's
and if you go in through
anatomical.
all of the ports, if you're welcome everywhere and you're free trade, you would have go through a port all ports, a portal.
Bingo. The
Demystified.
demystification of portal. Because that's the thing, that word started to be used as a magical description or term in folklore only in the mid 1800s by a man named George MacDonald, writing a book called Fantastes or Fantastes, Phantastes. It's the first use in the Western literature of the word portal being used as a way to describe like jumping from one world to another, like in a
Through the
mystical
wormhole.
fashion. Before that, we have this very nautical terminology.
But this
up
is
until this
also
point.
this is also a birthing story.
Yes.
Yes,
You
absolutely. It's anatomical.
you pass through the worm from one
Yes.
reality into the next reality. So the sperm goes through your dick to the egg of the lady, and she is bringing through her wormhole. You are coming out into the real world, where they slap you on your ass, so you start screaming and breathe and learn to breathe by yourself. So you
What's it
are.
mean when you port something like in a computer? You plug something in. You know,
It's
you're
Right.
how you
porting
call
to.
it.
You're bringing that to the next. It's all, and it all
It's
stems from anatomical
Of
language.
course, it's all anatomical. In the end, box art is very boring because you can always bring it back to pole and
No.
hole.
Poles
Yeah.
and holes, poles and
Yeah,
holes,
ones and zeros. So it's
ones
very
and
simple.
zeros.
It's very simplistic in that way, which when you know it, you can see how all the other things come out of just that way of thinking. Of
Hmm.
course, they have been thinking holes and poles from the beginning, these people, because
Can't stop.
why do we call this one pole? And why do we call this one hole? It's like so
Oh,
obvious. Yeah, so when you put them together, you have the whole E. Yeah.
holy.
And then from there, you get all kind of holy stories. Yeah.
Right, right.
And these people who come from the holy and who speak true, in root, they speak sant. And sant becomes saints. Yeah, what you call
Ah,
saints in English comes from the root word sant, like you have Santa Claus. Yeah, so
right.
he's the guy who speaks sant, who speaks sanning. Yeah, saga om ringen, saga om sanningen in root.
Wow.
So the saga of the ring, the saga of the truth.
Wow.
Yeah, and the word says it by itself. You can't help it. So
Yeah,
it's you,
right.
you
Once you
you
know it.
start to laugh, because it's so simple. It's really simple, actually, but it's not so easy to explain. You need
No.
time and you need conversation and you need people who have similar interests to talk about this kind of subject and to put them. The nice thing with Box Saga is that you can put them in the right perspective. So all these
Hmm.
stories are in a way valid. Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
like the story of bird. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to be a bird, try a little flying. And of course, if you think that the South Pole is not so long time ago discovered, between brackets, by us in modern times, so of course, when you don't know anything from one place, it very quickly gets the aura of magical mystery, mysticism, all this kind
Which,
of thing.
there's consciousness is amazing to
Yeah.
look into, and the world around us and quantum physics, like these things are not made up fairy tales. Those aren't the fairy tales. Like we are absolutely, I don't want to even use the word spiritual anymore because it's a silly word, but like, you know, there is something going on that is
Of
quote
course,
unquote
there is.
magical about existence. But the deepest I've ever gone into consciousness in my own inner world, my own
Yeah.
inner travels, it's the gnosis of unknowing. And that the knowing itself is an egotistical grasping of
Of course.
the person. And you know, we're going beyond Saga there anyway. It's like that is the essence of, and you know, there's use of marijuana and cannabis and probably mushrooms
Mushroom.
in the Saga and things like that, because of
Oh,
course these are people that were aligned with nature, you know,
yeah.
and so they were aware of these higher potentials, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But what was conveyed was it's almost like the original meaning for occult, because occult means hidden within, you know. So it's like they allowed it to remain there, and what they conveyed to one another and the stories they passed down really weren't about that, because when you start talking about what's inside, it's not going to be the same for the other person, because we all have that inner world and we can only speak it to ourselves. And when we try to speak it to others, that's when mosques and churches get built.
Yeah.
You know, do you follow? So it's like, instead of conveying all these stories from within, which is religion, it's conveying how life was. Like you know, the what we talk about, astrotheology is
Yeah.
about turning those myths into a farmer's almanac of useful guides throughout the year, things like that. In the same sense, this is a logical culture we're talking about. We come from logic, and this
Of course.
logic is, of course, we're going to pass down pragmatism and practicality because we come from ice time and everything was terrifying and desperate. You know, it gave us our will, basically. I don't know if that, yeah.
No, it fits 100% because I mean, of course, you have these people that was living with all the plants and the trees and the berries and the fruits and so they had an enormous knowledge about all this kind of thing. So in that time, you was also educated. If you had the tendency, you know, it's maybe not everything is for everybody, but some
Right.
people they have capacities to transcend that more or less, you know, or they can tell nice stories about that what they experienced. You know? And if you are educated in that, I think, no, yeah, it's like with everything. When you once you learn about it, you lose the fear. And we are not educated, you know. We throw in
Right.
all kinds of shit in our head, and it's like the one-armed bandit. Either you get your 3 strawberries or 3 sevens or mixed fruit program, you know, where you lose it completely. And all of us make those kind of experiences, more or less.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have to be respectful for all these kind of things. So they had, of course, also ceremonial happenings doing what they were doing. And they did it together, you know. It was practically impossible to be alone. Yeah. And yeah, we become, in the modern world, more of these lonely people. What make also that we have accordingly our lonely problems also. But when you can share them with everybody, you find out it's nothing special, and you start to get used to all kinds of things. Yeah, and that I find the interesting thing because hey, you know, when you eat whatever you eat, yeah, you change the color, or you see more clearly, or more sharp, or more, you know. So it starts all kinds of processes which are not part of our daily life.
Right.
You know, it's more of a spiritual thing. And yeah, it's funny that they little bit destroy that spiritual aspect because spirits of today is alcohol. No?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or alcoholic
and
behavior, even without
yeah,
the
the
alcohol.
behavior that comes out of it is not so incredible.
Right.
So of course you can use it, but what is the point when you are totally out of it? Which,
Yeah, and
yeah,
what have I don't know, is it a game of telephone, or has the church and whoever's behind the church been so ingenious to wrap up history into fiction in the way that it did is just unbelievable. Like the way that I don't know, the way that they've hijacked this very deep sense of purpose and spirit that we have within us and have externalized it to gods and uh this whole concept of whatever's happening after we leave this mortal coil. Yeah, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but I say it often that I feel like the last thing you have to throw away is the fear of death if you
yeah,
really want to hang tough in this community for the truth. If you really want to keep going, you have to throw off your hopes of whatever may be coming after this and whatever you think might be coming after this, because I find most of the conversations about folklore and mythology and spirituality and things like that, they hinge upon desperation for whatever's happening after
also,
this.
also, it's the fear of the unknown.
Beautifully
Yeah,
said. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Simply put.
yeah,
So I forgive everybody, but if this is the big person's club and we're all in the quote unquote truth community, it doesn't matter if you're talking about box saga or flat earth, or it doesn't matter if you're not willing to like really, throw off the fear porn that has been handed to us. Man, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, that's the whole
No,
problem. Oh, I
I was,
leave it. You go ahead.
I was gonna say that
Dustin.
that's the big part of the story is that Frey was given the sound system for the sole purpose to appreciate the thing, what the nature that
The
has been
nature.
created. And
Yes.
so it's about this appreciation and giving names or words and meanings to everything, and
Yeah.
and I find it fascinating that there's this concept of the soul and the spirit, um, and they're different things, and when they combine, you get this miracle of the human being, and and when they separate at some point, you know,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
and go back to source and in their own different paths. So this thing we call, me, myself, and I,
Mm.
is a collection of these different ideas. So I don't know. I'm
And
just
that's a very,
riffing
and
there.
I find that a lot harder pill to swallow than Nephilim giants from another dimension, or an angry deity flooding the world and things like that. Like all of these myths that we allow ourselves to believe, or fucking military industrial complex assholes selling us on aliens, and yeah, trying to connect it to the pyramids and trying to bring ancient aliens into like the mainstream topic because that's what they're trying to use now to bury our ancestors' stories.
Of course.
Like
Well,
whatever it is, it's all bad for you. It's all poison, and
one of the astrology things that before I was really kind of seeing the astrology and the Box Saga point of view as well is say in the ancient texts, whenever they mention, let's take the Bible for example, the Son of Man or the flooding, um, is usually referred to Aquarius, which we're in this time of Aquarius. And then if you look at it as a farmer's almanac, I don't know, I'm in California, we've had like floods every single day for the
right.
last like week. It's pretty awesome. But I guess it's just a coincidence it's happening in this flood. But the story of Aquarius is a Greek myth of um, this young man that Zeus was fond of, and wanted him to bring up the ambrosia to drink to the gods, right? And there's that, ambrosia is the drink of the gods. Now in Bach Saga, this is pretty explicit what this drink is, and
Right.
and so there's the Bach Saga perspective on this concept that has been applied to the rest of nature. And this is that thing, that simplicity of the Bach saga does fractal out. And so you can take this one idea and it can fractal out into all these different ideas to describe a lot of different things. And I just find that fascinating that it's all kind of lines up with it as well.
Yeah.
Which
Now
is
that-
also which is
Yeah.
also logical, no? If you think that all of this, if you think that the sperm and the marrow or the sperm and the egg is the most taboo thing
Yeah.
to talk about in our time, so we talk
Isn't
about
that
all,
amazing?
yeah, we talk about all kind of shit except about the stuff that is creating us and making us to be able to speak and think and communicate and see, and it's all this is coming out of one very simple thing called one sperm and one egg. No, that's quite magic,
Yeah, the
and
simple fact. Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
no, it's okay.
I was just going to basically reiterate what you were saying.
Yeah, it boils basically down to it that fortunately in our times anyway it became possible to talk about it because we are blasted with those things that seems to attract the most clicks on the internet, and that is this whole pornographic world. So
Mhm.
that is
Yeah,
seems to be that's also our hang up. So in one
but
side is
don't
our
speak on it,
taboo.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
it's
speak about
everything.
it.
It's like
Yeah.
we know everyone's thinking about it,
Yeah, no,
Oh,
yeah,
and
yeah, and
all
it's
of our actions are directed to that. How people dress, to how they behave, how they post on social media. It's all has to do with this thing that they're like unconsciously on their mind at all times, and
yeah,
then why don't
yeah,
you
and
just come
there's
out
and
and say
yeah,
it?
and that's a
And
really
then just,
important point too, because
you
like in
know,
this conspiracy community that I'm very much embedded in and always have been, pornography is not just like from the Christian point of view, but just from a lot of our point of view. It's like,
from
well, the
all,
industry is completely fucking evil, that's for sure. But beyond that, even the effect on the modern man, or maybe both, but mostly the men who sit in their fucking basements and all they do is jerk off and all that shit. Like that's a real thing. They just get addicted to fantasy and they fall apart. They have no worth. They feel worthless. All that whole thing that people talk about, the incel idea, like it's not. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the truther community will associate that with kind of like Christian ideals sometimes and be like, well, yeah, it's all because the acts itself is just, it should be just for marriage. Like it gets really like black and white when it's like, no, we are a fucked up culture. So
yeah,
nothing genuine and good is going to be operating correctly. We are all
yeah,
out of whack. We are
yeah,
completely
of course.
and when
Um,
you have a culture that's completely been dominated for over 1,000 years by, for whatever reason, a force that hates the human form and the act that brought it into existence.
yeah,
I don't understand that because I don't believe that it's demons from another dimension. I believe
no,
it's humans. Where this feeling, or I don't know. I don't know where that comes from originally, but that's clearly what we've been ruled by for a very long time.
no, it was
And
very easy. Yeah? You just take it away from the people and don't touch it and don't talk about it. And in the same time, we always needed the next generation uh, because otherwise history is stopping,
yeah,
without the
yeah,
next generation. And we come into this artificial program of our time, and yeah, so everything became an abstraction, and then that's what we held the highest, which is the holy book.
hmm
Yeah, which is of course translated to you by the priest, and now we find out in the 20th century that what was the biggest interest of the people who work in the church. And there we find all kinds of graveyard stories of utmost perversity in all directions. No? And also
right.
this is just coming now to light. It's like, yeah, I don't know any country at the moment where the religion is not held responsible for many traumatic happenings in the brain of boys and girls, or men and
Yes.
women. That's
Oh, yeah.
enormous. Huh? So it's
Yeah.
okay, It seems that the time is right for to speak also about how that comes and what is the background to all these different opinion people have and all these different philosophy or stories they have been making about this most magic thing that out of one sperm and one egg you get one human being.
I
Hey,
think it's
that's not,
so, yeah, it's
yeah,
so
is
funny
that,
that people are so offended by
yeah,
what brought us here.
that's it.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that is just the conditioning of the mind that we have, and slowly. I mean,
And
when I live,
fear so much
of course,
the cultures of the past that
of
clearly
course,
adored and worshipped and gave
yeah,
reverence and
yeah,
gratitude to
yeah,
the sexual energy of the world,
yeah.
and how everything comes into existence.
I
It's
when
such
I,
it's an
it's too much,
indoctrinated feeling.
Like when I
It's
lived in
rough.
Japan, I'm also surprised you walk through some part of Tokyo and suddenly there's like 200, 300 guys who's running with one enormous dick through the streets. And you are wondering that, wow. I thought these Japanese was highly educated people. But they have all this kind of paganistic, ritualistic stuff where they are celebrating the phallus, because they know that, hey, it's all Paul and whole story.
Oh my
Without that,
God.
everything stops.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this
What
is
what's so
everywhere.
sad about it to me is just how lonely and alienated everyone is,
Yes,
and how their heart's desire really is truly wholesome
yeah,
and good, and there needs to be a healing of the shame so that an offering system can be reestablished, and people need to get like really brave and saying, you know what, I actually do want a tour friend like that. That would be a really nice relationship, to
and
have
you,
have a best friend like that for 2 years, and then just and then
and
I
you,
could
you
mentor him, and he could mentor me, and it would be really wholesome, and it's just like, wow, wouldn't that be a bit like that kind of articulation of the vision of like what a way of living could actually be pleasant and pleasurable and ecological, and you know what I mean, the permaculture.
of course,
So
yeah,
anyway,
it's really
it's
permaculture. Very nice said. Yeah, yeah, it's unbelievable. It's like, but that's it. Yeah, we are from this time that we also have to accept. We are from this time where we are from small ingrained with all the different images that that are about these subjects, no?
Mhm.
And to become free from that, I think it needs a little bit time also. Like I have also been listening many years to this story, and with the friends, we make sometimes some experimental happening. But you find out also that we are so flipped out, so we can't even enjoy it. It's like how we are, because straight away you are blasted with homosexuality and all these kind of bullshit stories that
Jim.
are really deep inside.
Oh
Jim
yeah,
told me, he said when I remember when we visited, he said he was really hung up because he didn't consider himself homo, and then it came to the point where it's like he wanted to wanted to Eeyore's
Yeah,
sperm, and it's just like, and he had to like, and he went through, he told me this whole like psycho emotional system, and he had to finally put it on a spoon. He couldn't take it straight from the tap, you know what I mean? And he had this whole thing, and I was just like, huh, and I'm pretty progressive as far as what my experiences and my openness. I'm just like, well, whatever,
uh,
but it could be fun. It's like I don't have any shame in my mind about it, but I don't have a lot of experience either. But it's just like well, why can't this be a viable alternative? And why, I mean, you could be on those whatever podcasts, and you could actually monetize this with like a tour friend, or a new offering system, and for that will heal you. Because he said because Jim was saying, like, as soon as he took Eeyore's sperm, the sound rang. It's like it became like the alphabet just became solid in his head. And I'm like, well, if it's got this medicine that it can somehow like like, wouldn't it be good for all of us to bond together over this stuff, over our juices, and just like, okay, let's get on with it. Like, let's
That
take each
is,
other's juice and heal this schism.
I
So
think
I don't know.
it is a very holistic part of the whole story. It is a holistic happening when we as human beings get to that part. It starts all very simple. You can do two things. When you take out sperm or magla, you can throw it away or you can drink it. That's that is the first step. So if you are brought up with the fact that, hey, this is disgusting, no, yeah, it's only to think a little bit about it, and you can find out within your own brain very quickly that, no, yeah, if this is the foundation of my life, it can't be bad for me. Yeah, so it's not poison and it's not piss and it's not shit. It's sperm or magla, or sap, what they call it in Finnish. And when you go through that, first of all, that's the first acceptance of yourself. So you have to
Interesting.
accept yourself in order to be able to have fun with yourself, to enjoy. No? N means knowledge, and joy is the knowledge is coming from the North Star, which is the sperm by the masculine and the magla by the feminine. So already the word enjoy means that you basically learn to play with yourself, and that was also the way we were educated before. Yeah,
It's when you give something to someone, they're gonna play by themselves. You say enjoy.
enjoy. Yeah, yeah. So when you have the right to enjoy, who wants to take away your right to enjoy? Now, yeah, if you go maybe in whatever sect from whatever religion or philosophy or way of thinking, yeah. So if you think that I was hanging out in India before this story crosses my life path, and there you had in India this guru who was proclaimed worldwide as to be one sex guru in Pune, in outside of Bombay, one town where they had an ashram, and there was among all these Western people who was experimenting on many different levels. Yeah, the sannyasi, these people who in that time dressed up with orange clothes, and they all had a mala with a picture of the guru hanging over them. And I know many of these people because there is a whole bunch of them in the States and in Europe and everywhere, in all countries on the planet. Because that was one place where these people could do experiment with themselves without to have this or to loosen these walls or these barriers of shame that are installed in all of us. Yeah. And it starts already when you are young. If you are playing with your machinery, they are telling you keep your hands above the blanket. These kind of stories. So it starts already with very small things very early in the life of how you should behave, how you should be normal. And this
And
is
how you
the
should
kind of
play.
thing. Huh?
I have so much fun with the Bucks. I feel like 90% of the time I'm playing,
Oh,
and like
it
having
is
fun.
also. It is
It's
also.
funny. It's the words are funny. I mean, it's just it's like it's relief funny.
No, yeah,
Like oh,
it is. Yeah, you start to
it's
look.
like all the taboos and like way we're supposed to behave and act, and we're trying to like look right and feel right and act right and try to get everything right so we don't get ostracized in society and everything like that. But with the box saga, it's so fun and freeing, and I don't know.
It is the
Throw that
first
out there.
step of the human, I think, on the way to freedom.
Lighten up, people.
I often say this too, that like we've gone on in the Western world for decades and decades and decades of National Geographic going over vicious
Yeah,
detail of all sorts of strange and interesting fertility rituals from around the world through the Amazonian to just everywhere all over the planet. And we have many things involving sperm and sap. We have many cultures involving many
man.
rituals that we would go, whatever, we're not doing that. But the thing is as soon as it's a bunch of European white people doing it, it's completely taboo, and it's the worst thing anyone's ever heard, and no, it never happened. All these white woke people can handle it if it's black people in Africa doing weird fertility rites
Yeah,
back
yeah,
in
yeah, correct.
their Aboriginal cultures and stuff like that. But if
Yeah.
it's white people, no, we
No,
come
no.
from we must have been Catholics or something.
And what's hilarious about that is like that's the whole out of Africa thing. Oh, look how primitive they act
Yes.
now. So that must mean that's where the origin of humanity must be. Because look,
It's
they
a
haven't
hoodwink. It's
changed.
like shitting on them with
Yeah,
pretending
it's
to
like
lift them up.
that's
It's
fucking
really funny.
racist. Like
Yeah.
like
Of
instead
course.
of like that's the whole inversion of all that kind of stuff too. But
It's
Of
unreal.
course. No,
even that
primitive
word, I
That's
love
what
when
bizarre.
I tried to
Jim
explain.
Kessner would say like, "Oh, I am racist." You know what? Because I see each culture as its own individual art form,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard
and
him
they
say
should keep
that.
it that way. So
And
yeah, call me racist, right? Like go find the biggest, strongest, purebred Hawaiian dude and rebuild their culture, rebuild their race. And from
Mhm.
there, you have the system. We have the system, like the keys, and everything. And there's so much, that we pontificate. Like, what did Eeyore like not tell us? Or what did he not say? What did that family keep to themselves? But it was
Mm.
like,
The,
you don't
the, the,
you
the
don't need to
day
know
when
that
Freya,
because we can figure it out.
the
Mm.
date when Freya and Freya were born, they didn't give us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, do they have dates?
that of course there must be a date. He said that we could even figure it out, but I'm too stupid.
Oh
So
man, millions of
uh,
years.
yeah,
Oh man.
enormous amount. But anyway, it doesn't matter because the storehouse should show it to us.
Can I
So
ask a dumb question that I should know already? But these are just those intricate details about the saga that sometimes just fly over your head.
yeah,
The storehouse. That is, was that a natural formation in the earth? And then
it,
I know the stones were put there in the
no,
story by
no,
man.
no,
No,
no. That is the outside entrance area, which they
right,
closed, where
right. Okay.
where the stones were put. But
So the
the
storehouse.
storehouse
It's
itself, you must see it as one like when this planet come into existence, there are happening enormous chemical processes within this ball. And now you must see it a little bit like a whirlwind upside down. If you have a whirlwind, you have this kind of huge cloud structure that centers to one point when it comes to the earth.
mm,
And then just when it hits the earth, it makes a little movement to the side.
Imagine blending a smoothie.
Yeah, a hurricane. No? So you have the hurricane, the form of the hurricane, and now in the bottom, it makes like the water running away in a sink. Yeah, it is twisting around and it's going into the sink, and it's a little bit off on that part where it almost hits the earth. Now, the same is with the storehouse, but then upside down. So the peak, it's a cone, it is a conical form, and there where and it is created around the axis of the earth. So the axis of the earth is an imaginary one, no, it's not existing any axis in that way, but there's anyway this imaginary line going from North Pole to South Pole around which the world is turning. Yeah.
right, right.
So that is the axis, and now that axis in the creation of the earth forms a conical shape that goes exactly to the North Pole. But now, just before it hits the Earth, so there would be logical wise in the story, you are reaching the point of Valhalla.
Mm,
Yeah, just when it comes to that point, below the Earth's surface, it veers off to the right or the left, depending on which way you look at it. And The entrance comes out in that place where we are digging in Akampesa, which is about 23 kilometer east from the North Pole.
That's
Yeah, so
interesting. Okay.
the old North Pole.
I
So
was
you
always
must,
confused about that. I was always like, wait,
yeah,
I thought the pole was where there was like that's where Udenma was and hell was, but then I thought the temple was the storehouse that was like the
no.
that same
There
thing,
is
that whole
the temple and there is the storehouse. So the temple is in Akampesa. So the temple, the Lemminkainen temple, is 20 kilometer east from Helsinki, plus
yes.
minus. Now I'm not exactly sure because it's to make a straight line, kind of.
Yeah.
But now from that place there is a temple, and from there, behind the temple, you come into a corridor that leads to the top of the storehouse. And now
Mm.
from that top, it goes down into one, how do they call it in
Cone.
all the stories?
Uh,
They call in a
um.
cone form. It goes down as the abyss. Huh? How do you call that? The
No, it's
immeasurable abyss.
it's the Oh my God, I know the word for it.
We're talking
You keep
toroid.
you keep you keep talking. I'll find it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
So
this is
if
No,
you
very
see,
it's I mentioned it before, Andy. It's like that. It's that structure that like you draw a line and it's like a brain,
no,
but like no, yeah, it goes like a brain, but it's not two dimensional. Like it's not flat. It goes around the
yeah. I can try to describe it. So you
yeah,
must see it as one enormous lava tube.
catacomb, but not a catacomb. But
No, it's a cone-formed structure in the earth that is created through in the creating of the earth, the chemical process make that gaseous substance of the interior coming from the magma going up through the crust of the earth uh, to the North Pole, and the
mhm.
entrance of that lava tube is 20 kilometers from the actual center of that conical form going
Okay.
down in the ground. So it's a little bit like this hat, what the Santa Claus has on his head, and this
Oh,
white ball is kind of that one that is hanging to the side.
a
And
labyrinth,
labyrinth. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Okay.
a
yeah,
labyrinth.
so now the bottom is very deep.
Right.
It's an
Millions of years deep.
enormous hole that is created in the creation of the earth.
Mm.
Yeah, so it sounds very out, but no, yeah, we go and have a look.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and now
You put your
at
hiking boots on.
I want to come
the
over there and put
no,
the
no, no,
shovels
no,
in the
no,
ground
no,
and help
no, no
dig
shoes, no shoes allowed.
No
Everybody
shoes.
only
barefoot.
naked. Only naked people can go inside.
That's a
Fair
good
enough.
point.
They have very specific orders on how is the procedure when you come to that place. Everybody has
Mm.
to undress before we go in there. So it's like it's a boys' place. It's Pohjanmaa, the
That's
bottom.
true. Yeah.
It's Pohjanmaa. Pojan is like a slang word for boys in Finnish.
Hmm.
So under the North Star, there is under the earth the bottom land or the boys' land. Because in this place, in the paradise time, only man was allowed in. So the whole outside of the earth is for the ladies. So the earth surface, the whole earth, is 100% for the female, and there we are dividing how you call that? Like all the temples that are made are and for man and for woman. So everything is for man and woman. But there is one place on this planet where also Akka, she couldn't go inside because
Hmm.
it was only for men, because this Lemminkainen temple, this temple part at the in Akampesa, it is yeah, I should actually do it in sound, but to make it more simple, you should see this temple as one sperm exchange temple. because there is this Lemminkainen who is there in the smallest temple that exists on the planet. It's a small place where there is only one divan inside. The divan is this offering furniture where they could make 69 in order to make the exchange of the sperm so that the Arabi would be like a stand-in for Lemminkainen in order to give 30 days to drink to the Disa in Akampesa, who, when they have been drinking 30 days from this Rabbi, she become transported to Bokland, which is next to it's one of the 7 islands, where this Lemminkainen from his tower is looking over the Seed Channel, as this canal between these islands is called, and he can see all these Disa on the island there, and he can row over with his boat because he has been getting inspiration by one of the girls there who has been drinking 30 days from the Rabbi as a stand-in for the Lemminkainen. Because Lemminkainen, he has already to give 30 days to drink to the swan in order to create minimum 12 boys and 7 daughters. So now, if he would be doing the same procedure with all these Disas, they would have been drinking him empty. So now, instead of Lemminkainen to have to do all that job, he has this whole army of Arabis who are like the guys who go out from Oudenma to the ringlands to make the Jalkalen Trail, this mass of people on the planet. So for that, he has like this ceremony with this rabbi to exchange the sperm so that now these girls can drink from these rabbis that have been invited to come into Lemminkainen temple to go to this procedure on the divan with Lemminkainen. No, that is one section. That is the temple story. That is Lemminkainen temple. But now from there, when you walk further on in the direction of hell, you come to the top of the storehouse, and the first room that is there is the room that they made for Frey and Freya. So in this conical structure, they are cutting into the wall of this conical form one saal and 2 rooms. So in the bedrock, they are taking out stone to make one saal, which is a square room, and 2 chambers where they store all these beautiful artifacts that have been brought up in appreciation of for the system to the castle of Seppo and Maja in Raseborg, which is 80 kilometers west from Helsinki. So when the period of children making for this one Lemminkainen is finished, because his 12th son has become 27 and takes over his function, they empty the castle and bring all these artifacts, these aesthetics, into these 2 chambers where they store them. And now you can take them out from these chambers and bring them in the saal where you can display them and you can have a look at these beautiful objects that they have been making in the paradise time. Now, all this construction is made in time. Yeah, so it's the time that has been creating it. The structure, the basic structure was there,
Right.
which consists of one, like a lava tube, ring road tunnel spiral that goes deeper and deeper into the earth all the way to the bottom. And the bottom is also bedrock. Yeah, but the bottom is bigger than Oudenma. And Oudenma has a diameter of 240 kilometers.
Whoa.
Yeah. So basically, when you are down there, you can fly around with one airplane.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's really big, man.
I never
It's
knew
like-
this. I didn't remember, or if I've been told this aspect of it, I didn't remember this part of
Okay,
it. Like,
no, yeah,
this
we are
is
talking
awesome.
about it now, so I just throw
This is
it out.
fantastic
So-
because like, you know, people take for granted the Box Saga's connection to the inner Earth theories that are flying around
Yeah.
out there. But man, this was pretty intense. You know?
This is, no, yeah. I mean, he took about 1 month in order to explain to me what it is. So otherwise, he fried my brain. So I hope I don't fry your brains. You know, like just don't believe it. just leave it because it is unimaginable. It is really unimaginable. Yeah. So it's a conical form that is going, I don't know how many kilometers deep into the earth, and they start from the top, and every generation they make a new room or a saal with two chambers where they store their goodies, the beautiful artifacts that are made by these artists who are making beautiful objects in appreciation for the system, and they make it out of gold because that's the only material that lasts forever.
You know what it reminds me of is those big apartment buildings that are like have the inside, like it's four walls, but if you imagine them like a circle, then you can like see everybody else's apartment balcony, you know, on every level, like
Well,
in,
if
you know,
you
like
see
those big
if
giant Chinese, but instead you imagine it like a cone, and then you can see all of the treasures of every generation all at the same time, like standing on one wall, maybe. But if it's bigger than Udenma, you wouldn't be able to see that far. But
no, you can't say you can. You know, it's like I don't know what we have to expect. I tell you, it sounds so crazy, so you can't believe it. You can only understand it. That the
yeah,
time has been making this kind of thing where there has been the people who are going into this mountain and they are digging out stone from the walls of this cone in order to make one saal with two rooms for every Lemminkainen. And now they put a life-size statue of Lemminkainen in gold in front of the entrance of that saal and two chambers. So there we are naked, and we can stand naked in front of our fathers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's one story even on that in the Bible.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, there's this place that this
Wow.
place where you walk on streets of gold and you stand naked in front of your father. You can find it if you go through the book.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
it sounds really crazy. So there
Well,
is this
I mean, it all
huge,
does, but
yeah,
but it
the whole
doesn't.
story is crazy, but it's also the thing that they talk about enormous time period.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that the ice time started 50 million, 10,000 and 40 years ago. This is called the first Ragnarok in 2 weeks from now. So in 2 weeks from now, 50 million, 10,000 and 40 years ago, the ice time
Wow.
start and the whole structure become completed uh, when the first Ragnarok start. So they reached the bottom before we come to the first Ragnarok,
Mm-hmm.
and now because they come to the bottom, they went a little bit sideways, and that make that it on the bottom they could make many more saal and room, so it become like how do you call this head? What the hexa have on top of them? They have this kind of conical head,
the
Yeah.
or like
witch's hat.
yeah,
Yeah,
or like
wizard.
this or like this uko head, which has this brain board in the bottom of this hat, what he has on his head.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it on the you can see it on the you know the painting of Eekman of Beinemeunen sitting on the hell playing Kantele.
Yeah.
You have that image of that picture,
I think
and
so.
now left from him, if you look at that picture, you can see uh, the swan and Akka and Lemminkainen sitting next to him. It's
Uh,
not on the. Yeah, I see it. It's the second from the top on the right hand side.
this one? Oh, right
No,
there.
go to the. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, you put it in. If you
This
can.
one?
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Now here you can see this is Lemminkainen And here is Akka. She is the one with this greenish, no, lower,
Oh, down
lower,
here.
no, to the left. Completely on the left. Yes, that one. You
Okay.
just, no, not that one, the one above. Yeah, that is Akka.
Okay.
And these two next to Weinemönen, this with the blonde hair is the swan, and behind her is sitting Lemminkainen, and he has this top hat. He
Yes.
has this funny top hat. Now that top hat is exactly the form of this storehouse, which is, as an official name, it's called the Bok family treasure chambers. Now, before Einstein, we were all Bok family because we were all children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, great great grandchildren, and great 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 grandchildren from this guy who is sitting there and playing kantele. Yeah, because he can tell A. He plays kantele because he can tell A. He can talk about the sperm tree, which is A, the oak tree. Yeah,
Oh,
so
right.
that is why this music equipment that he is playing on is called kantele. Now, this storehouse has the form of this top hat that Lemminkainen has on his head, and it's going down. And when you come to the bottom, they went a little bit sideways, what make that the surface down in the earth become bigger than Udenman, which has 240 kilometer diameter. Now, this is the most ridiculous story what you can ever think that such a thing can exist. So there's many people who have been looking for it, and they call it El Dorado, and they call it Shangri-La, and there is many, many, many names for this place that is existing in all mythological culture on the planet.
Agartha.
Agartha, another one, you can go. So this is this totally out of order place, what is completed before the first Ragnarok. So nothing has been happening down there in 50 million, 10,000 and 40 years. Because it was all made in the paradise time by our ancestors. All of it. Yeah.
It's so nuts.
Now, under the ice time, nobody could use it. And I have small theory or philosophy on why and what, but we don't go so far in that. But now there is this corridor that leads from the Lemminkainen temple to the storehouse. And the first room is Frey and Freya, so from there you can count how many Lemminkainen there have been, going down and down and down and down, and you make the whole roadway down until you come in the bottom, and then you know how many generations of Lemminkainen there have been. So probably they left us some information also in that storehouse, because there is all the, what they call the, how you call that, the in the Hindi has one name for it. This place where is all the records.
Oh.
Sounds familiar? This place
Yeah, it
where is
sounds
all the
familiar.
records. Yeah.
Not
Well,
a library.
more of a spiritual
Akashic?
thing. Akashic.
Akashic record, correct. You have it, Alan. Very
Akashic.
good. Akashic record. Chic bedoelt.
Akka.
Chic.
Akka.
Akashic. Chic means beautiful. In French, chic is beautiful.
Yes.
In Arabian, sheikh is the guy who is the head of the tribe or of the community. And so there's many chic words around this planet in different cultures. And this Akashic record is there where is buried the whole history of the human being from Frey and Freya up to the first Ragnarok. Under the ice time, they had nothing to do there because not enough, no people to start to continue such a thing. It was already reaching the bottom. So you have also to stop sometime because otherwise, you end up in the magma in the center part of this golden egg in the interior of the earth. So only the natural structure with a little bit help from the human being in order to create all this chamber and saal in this in this structure. So you can see it a little bit as this Tower of Babel, but then inverted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of inside out, outside in. Yeah. And
But at the same
now,
time, in the perspective of like the whole planet, it's not that big. I mean, it's big for an
no, it's
individual
only
human.
small. It's only small. You know, like I mean, if it has a conical form, it sounds really crazy what I go to say now. But if you think it has a conical form, and the bottom is bigger than Udenma, which has a diameter of 240 kilometers. So it must be at least twice the diameter of the bottom in order for it to be conical.
Which is still not that big, considering.
That's
I
only
mean,
500 kilometers.
So we're talking
yeah,
about it going
because I mean, we have volcanoes going off in Iceland.
right.
It
So
has this form. Like I make with my hands now, it has this form.
which
Yeah.
is weird because for the longest time I've always, and I don't even know how it would make sense if it was the opposite, but I was picturing the opposite because of what
Me too.
I've always kind of
Yes.
I've
Yes.
connected Bach Saga often
Yes.
to the idea of like the toroidal field, the donut.
Yes. But
Because that's
that,
similar to what it sounds like with like the soul going back into the
that
top
is,
of the holy.
I think that's more our brain, this toroidal thing, like
Interesting.
this here speech channel, you know, this is
Mhm.
this whole where you go in the head. If you see,
Right.
if you see Udenma as the brain and all the other ringland outside of Udenma, so the whole rest of the world as the body.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, you
Midgard.
see it like that, So here you have Midgard, and Midgard is Valhalla, and around Midgard you have
Asgard.
Asgard. Yeah, yeah, Asgard with the ring wall.
And then you have
The ring,
Vanguard.
huh?
Then
Yeah,
Vanguard.
that is
Vanguard.
the Vanguard. That's different. That's the rest of the planet.
Right.
That's probably what it belongs to, all this Vanguard. But anyway, now after the ice time, when they start to make ringland from Finland going east in the direction of Alaska, in the first thousand of years, that was a system that they built. But in the same time, the appreciation system was again happening for these people who made all these people from Finland all the way in the direction of Alaska. So now it come beautiful thing back up to the castle of Seppo and Maya, and the same story continue. But now the storehouse was already ready, and no reason to go there. So what we think is, because they talk about one corridor, and one core is the core of a structure, and door, and the word door relates to the doors. So corridor means one corridor, one gong where you have doors on both sides.
Aha.
And now there they could store all these things that have been brought up in appreciation from 1000 years after the ice time up to the year 987. So there is the, let's say, last, what would you call it, 7,000 so many years of offerings brought up are beautiful artifacts that come from all these different ringlands that have been existing up to the moment that the system started to collapse with the infiltrating of Chinese into the Lemminkainen system, and then the Tatar infiltrating in the Lemminkainen system, and then the Turkish infiltrating into the Lemminkainen system. So you start to get this, what we call this mix between the Arctical and the tropical people of Mongol, Tatar, and Slav. Yeah, those who love the sun.
Tartar. Like
Yeah,
as in
Tatar. It's
Tartaria and Tartarus.
Tatar. It's the Hindi people who infiltrate in this, let's say, Siberia area, of
Try
Russia.
Tartarian.
No,
Tartarian.
Right,
it is
Tartarian.
it is Tatar in root and Tartar in Van.
Yeah,
So
well, there was
in
something
root,
about, I don't know if it was fake news or not, but it was like a year ago, something about Putin or Putin's team or someone representing Putin wanting to give the true history back to the Russian people and opened up some memorial or some museum or
yes.
something to do with this. People were saying it was
No,
Tartaria, but I don't
what
know.
what
Like,
Putin did that was when he come in power, and he has been hearing about our story.
Oh, okay.
And we have a very good friend who became the head judge, also my high guy in the court system in The Hague.
Mm.
And he happened to be one Finnish guy, and he's a good friend to him, and they make judo together. And this guy has been telling him about the existence of this story. And one of the first thing he did was that he take I don't know how many 100 million billion ruble for Russian people to make research of the whole of Russia in order to find out everything what has been happening there after the ice time.
Whoa.
Yeah, so he's doing enormous archaeological job on this whole area of Russia, and he make funds available for that in order to find out everything there is to be able to find out from that place.
Well, listen, guys, it's getting late over here in the East Coast of the United States, but this has been absolutely wonderful to talk to you guys. And as soon as Michelle popped in, I knew we were going to be like kind of like we were just going to be listening, you know, to awesome stories. But I'm glad that we also got to kind of cover what I originally wanted to cover, which is kind of like the controlled opposition, the just that whole angle that has infiltrated and has taken off in every direction that takes away from these older stories, you know. Um, but yeah,
well, you titled it Nightmares. That's 2 words for horses.
how about that? Nightmares,
And that connects to the
fairy
dragoons,
tales.
right?
Yeah,
The
and
dragoons, which is a horseman, a cavalry, right?
mhm.
And then fairy tale.
Well,
I don't
fair
know.
comes from
Fair is
Greek, and it's
fair,
fair is
very fair,
Fair is
nobility.
fair.
Yeah, and it's fair. Yeah,
fair, very
That's
yeah.
fair,
a
fair
fair
people,
E. That's a fair E you have there.
correct, fair E. That's
next
your fairy,
next
that's your
time you're
fairy. That's
That's
called
your
troll.
fairy tale you have
That's
there.
yeah, correct. That's your fairy tale, which is called troll in root.
You guys know
So
about the radical fairies, right?
uh,
no.
Yeah,
the
they're a famous American gay subculture called the radical fairies.
yeah, radical, yeah.
I
There's
don't think
That's
they
many
know
good.
anything about
combinations.
it, but that's the thing.
No, absolutely not.
No,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't.
what I've been finding when people, when with like the knowledge of the Box Saga, people are actually when people are asking questions, it's real interesting because oh, what about this thing and this thing and this thing? And you take all these words, and
You never finish.
it's self-prophesizing
Yes.
its answer in the question itself because of the words they're using to ask the question. And in the
Mm.
words themselves, like you ask about demon or something like that, like the
Right.
moon,
The moon.
and it just keeps
This
going
is
on
the
and on.
thing, I sit here and I blah blah all this kind of funny story without to realize that, oh man, now this is we going on tape again, of course, Andy, if I know you.
Oh,
So
hey, that's all right.
no, it's also nice to tell, but it is so unbelievable. You can't believe this. You can only understand that it is possible for
Right.
people from generation on generation to do some kind of Sisyphus job of going in there. You know, there is these guys who go in the mountain. Hey ho, it's off to work we go.
Right. These old
And there,
stories.
there we come to this kind of funny stories of this, what you call this Snow White and the Seven
Yes.
Dwarfs. Yeah. Now, what is the Snow White?
I was just about to ask about that because like the dwarves are like not that context, but say like in Lord of the Rings kind of context, they're in the mountains and
They are
they're
these small
mining and they're
people.
pulling the stones out
Yes, they
and
are these small
they deal with the
people.
rocks and runes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you look
That's
at if you look to the aesthetics of the past and the very, 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 very fine work that they have been making, you can find sometimes something object that is made from gold, which looks absolutely unbelievable, and you can't imagine how people have been making that, you know. But there must have been some special type of people who had this kind of physical ability, this structure of how to make this kind of incredible handicraft.
yeah.
What for us is, oh yeah, it sounds completely banana. So if you think that, no, yeah, you know, if you don't, I try to imagine this place, but I can't imagine. You know, you
yeah.
can't. You can only think that no, yeah, it's one story, and if they say that it is, this is what they built, and this is where all this funny look. You know, for us it was also a blast when they filmed the Lord of the Ring, and this smoke, this dragon who is there guarding all the gold down in the
Right.
earth, where these dwarfs has been digging in the mountain, and you know this kind of fun. You sit and you look and you think that, hey, this come out in the beginning or around the turn of the century. Yeah, these
Yeah.
stories, and it's the most watched film that you can see on the planet. No? Is
Yeah.
Lord of the Ring. Yeah? There's like practically everybody has seen it. You know? So I mean, we are already warred in one way. So for us, it was a blast. You know, so we have been laughing our ass off because when we start to dig for this hole there in the mountain to open this place, in that time we was Indiana Jones. Yeah, we
That's
were
right.
Indiana Jones characters, and slowly we moved up into the direction of these Lord of the Ring characters. You
That's
know, like
right.
you
You
know, so
guys are the
you start to get
fellowship.
so many weird story about us in newspapers and in you know, like we are totally nuts, of course. When you are in such a project, you must be totally nuts because how can you believe such a thing? You know, you can't believe it. You can only try to understand that there has been an enormous time before called paradise time, which
Mm.
was so long, you know, so that according to Eeyore, there is more room than there is living people in Finland.
Is
This
there
is
any
not.
new developments about the excavation?
That was the last question I wanted to throw out there. Thank
Uh,
you,
we
Alan.
we
Please do.
hope we hope to get some good news in the beginning of the summer. You know, now everything is frozen there. There is full of water, and we have to wait till the ice is melting, and that we can pump out the water, and then we can maybe hope, if the talks go well, that the work can start to finish this last piece of material they have been filling the cave with so that we can go to see Lemminghausen Temple. But, you know, this story I have been telling now for 37 years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no glass ball, no crystal ball to look in to see when it opens, because I think it has to do with the general configuration of happenings on the planet that make that there must come one moment when we have gone really down, 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 down to that point that existence maybe gives us a hand, you know, and makes the configuration such that we can succeed in our endeavor.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Well,
hey, you are all helping with it, so it's very nice.
Well, I hope at some point maybe that moment will come and a few of us will be over there with shovels helping, literally, you know. But how long has it been since there's been shovels on the ground and pumps in there? How many years has it been, or was it last summer?
Well, in
98.
Nanto,
No,
oh,
98 is the last time that we have been taking out material from inside the mountain.
Okay.
In the last 7 years, 6 years, of course, there has been this COVID period where nobody could do anything.
Yeah.
And I started already to make propaganda for cleaning up on the outside
oh,
because
okay, that's what's been happening.
that is what we have been doing in the last years is cleaning up on the outside.
Hmm.
And then there is the king of the sundial rock on the right hand side of that structure in front of the Etterstupa, which looks like it can fall in the hole any second. And Ananto and me, we have been starting, and a couple of other guys who was up there, Marcus and Johan, we have been cleaning up from under the sundial rock because we are told that it is standing in a certain position. And I want to see if we could show that
Oh,
because
that'd be
he
great.
already told about the stone blocks that block the entrance, of which there on the right hand side is still one stone standing that has to come out in order that the whole entrance become open. And I, of course,
Mhm.
wanted to clean up everything, but the guys who took over the grounds of the mountain from Eeyore when he was forced to sell it, they become in the same time that they were owner also responsible for everything what happens out there. And because it's very difficult because of all the material to see how is exactly that stone position, so we have to clean out more and more and more um, in order to get like a complete bedrock structure there on the outside of the mountain.
Mhm.
But because it looks so comical and ice and erosion and pressure uh, also is breaking stone, top layer of granite. So in order to not get the stone on our head, you become squeezed like nothing else, you know. I don't
Yeah.
think so, because I think these people have been thinking very good about what they have been doing. But anyway, you we need help from professional people in order to do that so that we can really clean up that place also so that the whole
Yeah.
thing becomes I want to bring it back to how it looked 987 when they close it, so I know how it looked like before, but when you
Mhm.
can't see it, it's like there is always a risk involved, and insurance technicalities and all this kind of bullshit about which we had nothing to do before, but today we have to because the place has become popular. So it's like a tourist attraction nowadays. There come people from all over the globe to come in
Right.
the summer to have a look there, and
Absolutely.
we can't take any risk. But on the inside, since '98, we had help from the Norwegian people to continue the digging inside in the mountain.
Yeah.
And the year after, Eeyore become quadriplegic because he got stabbed. So we
Right.
decide we don't do anything anymore. We stopped everything. So nothing has been happening there inside since '98. But in the last summer, Johan and Marcus, they have been starting to clean up on the inside, on all the rubbish and stone
That's
and
where that
stuff that's
axe head
there.
was
And
found.
then
Yeah, they
they
found
found
that
this
axe
axe
head.
head. They found the axe head, correct.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's interesting, it's like everything is like in the scales now,
Yeah,
you know.
everything's gonna happen. As you said, I think everything is gonna happen in due time. You know,
Mm,
that
mm.
man,
And it can,
what a pilgrimage to take from the opening in Seppo to all the way to Helsinki, or like my God, I don't know. Like you'd go into that and then you'd at some point just be under
no,
southern Finland, like
it's
in
the
Helsinki.
it's called the underworld,
Yes, man.
which in root means the wonder world, because
Ah,
under means wonder or under
Wow.
So
wonder.
that's a great, that's a perfect fucking example of what we've been talking about. This
Correct. The existence.
this exaggeration in the modern world
Yeah.
of the old world, you know,
Yes.
And what,
as if
you
we
know,
weren't amazing already, you know.
what's, you know, once you hear so many of the words like I have, like that's not a small thing or just a coincidence that it means Wonder World, you know.
Of
And
course.
that's something, you know, when you're first hearing the saga and you're first kind of taking it in, they're like, oh, nice wordplay there, nice pun, you
Right,
know, like
right.
nice dad joke or something like that. But it's actually so, you know, that's why I kind of wanted to open it up and show the complexity of how the language is actually structured with that flower of life image and the letters around the ring, because it's important to understand that it's not a coincidence. It's
Now
not at
look,
all a
Correct.
coincidence.
you have
And
in
it
root
is designed, you
the
know, it
root
is
word.
constructed.
The root word for this place, you have one root word. It's the underwerden or wonder world, but it is also called uh, under underwerk, underwerken, which means a wonder work. So it's
Mm.
Yeah.
underwerk.
Well, it was work too.
It's
Yeah.
created an underwerk inside of the earth, where this layer of the Scandinavian granite shield that is covering our world. We know that it is more than that it's about 700 kilometers thick, according to measurements that have been made there.
It made me
You
think
know?
of the word construct,
Yeah,
instruct, and then struct, which is like a structure or like, or you struct into the ground,
no,
you
it's a
know.
structure that is created by nature, but the
And
human being found it a perfect place to store its history in the
and that,
paradise time.
yeah, and in construction, you can also say cone,
Hmm.
right? Because that is the original construction, is this cone shaped wonder
Constraint shaped
world.
structure. Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
structure,
just
structure. No, yeah,
structure.
anyway, let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's only one story. Yeah,
Yeah.
so let's
Well,
see
let's
if
just see a
let's
door.
let's see if the story comes true. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
man. I want
because
to see
then
that door.
I think it will become very quiet on the planet on that day. All the
Yes,
noise can
that's the
stop.
thing. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the thing. These big claims require big evidence, and getting to that
and
door will be.
Well, that'll be the other thing where all the reporters show up and try to go in, and everybody will be like, "No, you're not a guy, and you're not
no,
naked."
no, 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 no,
Now they'll
no.
be talking about real propaganda.
We just
Yeah.
Propaganda.
we when we come to Lemminkainen temple, we are not yet at the storehouse.
Oh, right.
We
Okay. Yeah.
first we first we go to Lemminkainen temple, we make picture and we send them out straight away. And after we close the place full of water, so that we make the water lock functioning again, and then we have
Yes.
an official opening the year after.
There you go. That's
That's the
beautiful.
idea.
I
And
love it.
then we and on 24/7
I love it, man. I
on
love it.
Christina Day. She is a very
Yes.
important lady in the story of Bok family. So, I mean, this is just what has been told. And of course, you can think what you think. But when you go deep inside, you find out that you can actually understand that such a thing could exist in the time when people had time.
Right.
We have
Right. Right. That's a beautiful thing.
we have
Yeah.
no time for
We
anything.
have no time. And like, it's not
Correct.
just a little bit more time. It's
No,
if, yeah. And I'll just end with this. We could go on and on and on. But
of
like,
course.
every culture has their paradise story, but really, this is the only one that I know of that goes into vast detail and describes life itself and how everything was. And it really was humans in
Yeah.
love with nature and at play. And I know that's how it's described in many cultures too, but
Yeah.
really take it for what it is. There
It's
was
called
no, there's
it's called
no,
golden age.
yeah, the golden
You
age for
know,
a
it's
reason, right?
it's the
Yeah.
time when the planet was created. All this shitty gold, what we today are mining for, it was just lying around everywhere.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. Yeah, the golden age.
inclusive the jewelry and all this kind of stuff. This high stone. that are also forever. Yeah. So they could make beautiful things in that time when there was abundance of this, and they find out that hey, we can make beautiful things from this, and we can store it, and we make one storehouse because they find this place, yeah, just a little bit outside. And
Wow. Can you
so they,
imagine just like the world covered in just like gold everywhere? And then the
oh,
only reason we have to go mining for it is because
hey,
everyone's already
if you
appreciated it somewhere.
if you
Yeah.
go to if you go to Namibia, just north of South Africa, there you have beaches and sand full of this kind of stone lying. But today there is a big fence around, and you can shot you get shot when you put your hair. Yeah, so there is still place existing where
Yeah,
this is
nobody
just
owns
lying
anything under
around.
their feet in that area.
No,
Nobody in
no,
Africa, nobody owns the minerals under
no,
their own
no,
houses. None of
no,
that. No, no,
no.
no. There's
Anyway,
places here in America that are doing the same thing.
And
yeah,
there's also that
guys.
Michael Tellinger guy who's found
Anunnaki.
hundreds of thousands of like these stone circles that he believes were all used to like for gold, to get
Hmm.
gold out of, and there's hundreds of thousands of them in South Africa.
He's one
Anyway,
of those. He's
yeah.
one of those many guys that like is so close to the mark, and then he goes wee with aliens
Yeah,
off the
I haven't
reservation.
seen that part of him, but
But
yeah.
here's the thing, like, and I don't, I have come off as a dick many times about this topic, but to be nice, it's like I don't really blame anybody because
No,
shit, that's aliens was my provocative idea too before I found the
I,
saga, and when
we
that
all had
happened,
story.
everything fell apart.
And we
So.
all had story, and I tell you this story, he took the carpet from under my ass, and
Yeah, were you
you
religious at
see,
all, Michelle,
no,
before?
no, no, no,
Were you
no,
like an
no.
atheist, or how'd you feel about?
I'm brought up like that, but I
Okay.
was interested in different culture around the planet, so I came in that funny time in the position that I had nothing special to do. I didn't know what to do, so I became bumfuck hippie, as they call it,
Yeah.
and I started to travel the world and went to see all these mythological and megalithic places around the planet
That's so
in
awesome.
order to see. So I have been like practically everywhere except uh, Africa, south of the Sahara, on the continent. I've been on the islands around, but I know only North Africa. And
Wow.
He's
for the
been to
rest,
Easter
Well,
Island.
that's crazy. Well, North Africa, man, that's kind of that's where if you watch some Robert Sepper videos and everything, like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
where
yeah, yeah. I
a
watched
lot of
them,
the
you know.
lineage comes from, you know?
I watched them, you know. So no, I've been lucky to be coming or to come to be able to visit many places. Strange life,
Hell yeah.
you
We could
know.
tell so many stories. We should have a
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
episode because I do a show about music too, or we do episodes about music, and I'm like, didn't you guys all have something to do with Goa trance music?
don't tell me that.
You know,
You read
I
it? You read the article, what they make on the
think
year, and
so. I think
yeah.
so, yeah.
No, yeah. I
that's
mean
a
that's
big
it.
part of the sound system is these rhymes and songs. Like I just got the Kalevala, which is the Finnish epic, and I have it in English, and it's still written like poetry,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
then like even in that image we brought up earlier of Wainamoinen, or and Lemminkainen in the background, what's he doing? Everyone's around and he's playing, an instrument, which is talking in the name of the instrument is, what was it
can't
again?
tell, can't tell,
Yeah, so he's
can't tell.
telling a tale,
Yeah,
Yeah.
telling a tale, correct.
a fairy tale,
Oh
let's
Yeah.
my
say.
God. Oh, wait, are musicals more accurate than we think and everybody just used to sing to each other?
Well, think
Was
about
life that awesome?
all the jingles of all the commercials and everything that we had
Yeah.
when we were kids, and they still are in our minds, and there's got to be these. Yeah, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we could tell a lot more stories, but it is
Oh
past
yeah.
midnight here, my friends, so I'm gonna let you guys go. And to everybody who's been watching and listening, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. live
Yes,
number
thanks,
3
everybody.
on my end. This is pretty cool going live. I just need to get a handle on some of the details, and everyone's telling me to drop Zoom and go to StreamYard and this and that. I have no idea what anyone's talking about, so we'll figure that out in time. But Michelle and Alan and Dustin, I appreciate you all being here so much, and thanks.
Yeah,
Until
thanks for
next
the
time.
thanks for the inspiration. I don't know. I
Hell
got
yeah.
inspiration suddenly.
Hell yeah, man. It was great to see your name pop
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yes.
I saw you were busy, so I thought I must have a look in and see what the conversation is about. And add a little bit to it. Why not?
And
Yes.
it was perfect. It was great.
If you do that 100% of the time, that would be great too.
Yeah.
But as close as we can get, yeah.
Nothing
Yeah,
else to do.
I'm starting to do more lives these weeks. I'm getting more comfortable with it, and I got a series going on every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, called Rise of the Expert. We're doing it for another 6 weeks, but it's a more modern story than what we talk about with Box Saga,
Yeah.
but it's also hard hitting, and I think it all everything's connected on some level, so I'm going to continue doing these, and maybe we can make Saga Talk kind of like a live thing going forward, and maybe get more questions in the chat going. A lot of people were commenting on YouTube, so that's really good. Appreciate everybody there. So we still got 9 people hanging on. So thank you for being here with us.
Hey, thanks
yeah.
for watching.
Boom Shiva. Appreciate you
Shiva.
guys. And
Boom
yeah.
Shiva.
See y'all later.